Happy Wednesday afternoon. This is 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis joining you for the next 3.5 hours today. We're off just a little bit early for Westwood One's coverage of the first four of the NCAA tournament, but we've got plenty to get to between now and then here on the show today. Major news from KU moments after we went off the air yesterday. Kevin McCullar will not play at all in the NCAA tournament. We will talk about what that means for the Jayhawks and why we got to this point with Kevin McCullar coming up here in just a few moments. We'll also talk a little K-State basketball later on in the show. The Cats season ended last night in the NIT. Not the finest game for K-State. I don't know if anyone expected K-State to suddenly play their best basketball of the year, but that certainly wasn't it. So we'll get to that little post-mortem for the season and what is to come for Wildcats basketball. Also, some other news and notes from the NCAA tournament. I would like to make a point really quick before we get to this. And this has been true. You can ask everyone I grew up with. All my friends growing up were sports fans too. Loved college basketball as kids. I have always hated Tom Izzo. There's not been one day in my life where I was like, you know what? I do have a lot of respect, and I really like what Tom Izzo has done. No, I hate Tom Izzo. I have always hated Tom Izzo. And I would like to make that very clear. I have never once like that rat-faced old bag, and I feel even worse about him today than I ever have before.
Jeez.
We're going to get to that.
Brendan, it is 2:08.
I've been waiting since like 9 a.m. to talk about this. God, I can't stand him. And now he came up with another bad take that stinks and is bad. And we're going to get to it in the 3 o'clock hour. Along with, speaking of stinks and is bad, congratulations to the three of us. I think we could have had a better offensive performance than Virginia yesterday if it had just been us three playing against Colorado State. They went almost an entire clock hour without scoring.
It's one thing when they put, 0 field goals in the last 8 minutes of game time. That's embarrassing in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
To put these bums haven't scored since 50 minutes ago of real time, that is an all-time low I don't think I have ever seen a basketball team achieve.
You could have listened to a full album between the times they scored.
I've never seen that graphic before. I don't think I have ever seen anything quite like that.
And frankly, I hope we never see it again for anybody.
The graphic or Virginia basketball?
Yes, both. So we'll touch on that in the 3 o'clock hour as well. Tim Fitzgerald's going to join us in the 4 o'clock hour for our Wildcat Wrap-up. We'll get to some Chiefs notes in the 4 o'clock hour as well. Any other future targets for the Chiefs in free agency. Plus, a little bit later on, Travis Kelce dipping his toes into the non-sports media world a little bit. So we'll touch on that. We've also got one gotta go for today. We'll have What Is Wrong With You, our 580 Sports Talk headlines. And again, we're out of here at 5:30 today before the first four. You are welcome. In fact, we would desire you be a part of the show today, either on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429, or you can hit us up on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the name of our YouTube channel. Just head over to YouTube, search 580 Sports Talk, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and then you can go and hang out in the comments section with us. Mark in the YouTube comments says, all right, Brendan, tell us how you really feel about Tom Izzo. I will be happy to tell you what I feel about Tom Izzo. We'll get to him coming up again in the 3 o'clock hour today. But first, this just in, the Kansas Jayhawks will not have Kevin McCullar for the NCAA tournament. That news broke moments after 6 o'clock yesterday. We were driving back from Prairie Band. Shout out to the great folks at Prairie Band, by the way. Awesome show yesterday. Really fun to see a lot of you guys out there coming out and having some fun with us up in Mayetta. But Bill Self and KU arrives at their team hotel in Salt Lake City. I'm going to guess it was not the Econo Lodge, a 5-minute walk from the arena where I stayed in 2019. Where I can't believe I did not get bed bugs. I'm assuming it was not there. Bro, I'm telling you, it was not a... I've stayed in much nicer hotels in my life. Was close to that 24/7 Mexican place, though. Anyway, I'm just beating around the bush here. Bill Self says Kevin McCullar is not going to play this year in the NCAA tournament. That is significant because it wasn't just Kevin's not playing against Samford, or Kevin's not going to be able to go this weekend. We'll play it by ear. No, he went out of his way to say, no, this is it. He is being shut down. He is not going to play the entirety of the NCAA tournament. KU could go on a run, and the better part of a month from now, 3 weeks from now, KU could be playing for a national championship. He would not be able to play. They are shutting him down entirely. Well, so, yeah, let's get to this. Let's get to this. We have the audio here, and we'll get to what this means for KU going forward in this tournament in a moment. And I want to touch first the wording here. How often have we said when you listen to Bill Self, you've got to really intently listen to the wording of things and what actually he is trying to indicate when he's giving you a piece of information. This is, we can get audio here, Bill Self being asked about your star players, Hunter Dickinson, and McCullar. And he starts with good news about Hunter Dickinson. Here's Bill Self.
Hunt looks great. You know, he's practiced basically every day since Saturday, non-contact, and then the last 2 days he's been full contact. Kevin's not going to play. Kevin's says his knee pain has not subsided any, and it's too bad for him to be able to contribute. So Kevin will not play.
How tough is that to watch a kid that has given so hard and comes back for another year not be able to do so? Yeah. At least in the first round.
No, he's out. We're shutting him down for the tournament. So if we're fortunate enough to win 2 games, we would have done it without him. And you know, he hadn't practiced in 6 weeks basically, and so yeah, he hasn't done more damage to his knee, but he tried to do it and said that he just couldn't go.
He said that he couldn't go. Kevin said he's not feeling good enough to do this. He tried. He says he can't do it. There's a lot of he said this. There is not a lot of, you know,
the doctor said this.
Yeah, you know,
our training staff said this.
We tested him out. We had him do practice, and he couldn't make it through.
I said this. There's not a lot of I there from Bill Self.
There's a lot of. Which one? Yeah. Yeah, and again, a lot of Kevin felt like he couldn't.
A lot
go.
more of the same, really. Yeah.
Yeah, and right, but I don't want to speak for Bill Self. He will do plenty of that. In fact, he's going to speak here in about 2 hours, just under 2 hours, hour and a half or so. And some players will speak, and teammates of Kevin McCullar's took to social media, at least Twitter. I don't know. Instagram is completely broken at this point. Maybe there too. And they stuck up for him. And DeJuan Harris said something about him. Hunter Dickinson said, hey, people outside, they don't know how much work you put in to get here. They stood up for their guy. And I get it. But again, you really have to pay attention to the specific wording. This isn't our team doctors didn't clear him. And maybe they didn't. I don't know for certain. Maybe they're beating around the bush for some reason. But this was a lot of Kevin felt like he could not go. And that feels intentional. And I know our guy Michael Swain, and that audio is courtesy of Michael, by the way. He put on today that, you know, part of it is maybe frustration with McCullar. Part of it is frustration with the way this year has kind of unfolded down the stretch, and you can understand that. But this is different. Like, this is even different than the Remy Martin situation, which I know a lot of KU fans were hoping this would turn into. That, hey, it's weird. Martin shows up, and all of a sudden, oh, yeah, by the way, we had a guy who was a borderline All-American all year, and he just goes ballistic, and you win the NCAA tournament. But even that, everything was just very weird. Like, we never really knew what the injury was, and Self was cagey about it, and Remy was cagey about it. This feels very directly Kevin can't go because Kevin says he can't go. And much less so, it's mysterious. It's more the player said he can't do it, so we're not playing him.
And look, if he can't play, if he's not comfortable on it, then he can't play. And I'm inclined to believe that a senior, a guy who is out of eligibility, a guy who will never again get to play college basketball, never again have this opportunity in front of him to play in an NCAA tournament and win a national championship, would have done everything and anything in his power to try and get himself to a place where he felt like he could play and contribute. So I am maybe more willing than some other people out there on the internet
Mhm.
to give Kevin McCullar a little benefit of the doubt, a little bit of rope here, and say, yeah, like if this is a senior who is saying this, then I tend to believe that he really can't go. But it definitely reads as frustration from the coaching staff. And I don't know if that's inward a little bit from Bill Self, where he's frustrated a little bit with how he handled the injury in the first place, or if it's outward in the sense of frustrated with how Kevin has managed this injury. But either way, what you end up with is the loss of a player that any thought of a deep NCAA tournament run included in those visions. There's no, like, I do not see a path to the second weekend of this tournament without Kevin McCullar. I don't. I just don't see them winning 2 games without him.
And that was the next question, is what is the ceiling? I mean, no one in their right mind is picking KU to make it to the Final Four at this point. And is it possible? Yeah, sure it is. I could suddenly wake up tomorrow and be attractive. Like, it's not going to happen, but I guess theoretically it's possible.
There have been less talented teams that have made Final Four runs.
Sure,
but
but there
teams without any All-Americans or all Big 12 players.
But you rarely run into a situation where you have 4 playable players. Like, you might not have All-Americans or all conference guys, but you can at least build a roster out of, we just have 8 rotational guys and maybe they fit really well. KU's got 4 players if you don't have McCullar.
Yeah, you're depending on, essentially, you say, and Mark says in the YouTube chat, next man up, hopefully. Well, the next man up, we've seen their movies. And it would not just take, Marco Jackson's got to play his best basketball, or Nick Timberlake's got to play his best basketball. Like, that's true of any team. Like, your guys all have to play well if you want to make a deep run. This is Marco Jackson and Nick Timberlake. Those 2 guys in particular have to be players that they have not been, not even once, not even for minutes at a time, this entire season. They have to be completely different guys if Kansas is going to make a run. They have to get to a level of play that we do not have evidence of them being able to reach in a Kansas uniform. And that's an awfully touchy thing to have to base your tournament hopes on. There's a reason that the public is all over the Samford Bulldogs, that they are taking in Vegas the most public money on the money line, on the spread. Everybody's on Samford. There's a reason. And
especially we talked yesterday about how important Hunter Dickinson is going to be and how he is the matchup nightmare because Samford doesn't have dudes who can body up on Hunter Dickinson and all of that. This is from CJ Moore yesterday. This was late last night, I believe he tweeted this out. Said that it felt like Hunter Dickinson hasn't been as efficient with Kevin McCullar on the floor. So I ran the numbers. Small sample size, but in games where Kevin McCullar plays, Hunter Dickinson is shooting 57.4%, which for a big man who also likes to step out and shoot threes and mid-range twos, that's really good. Games without Kevin McCullar, 43%. I don't care what your game is as a 7-footer. If you're shooting 43%, that's killing you.
Well, a lot of that is he's trying to shoot through 2 and 3 defenders because who else do you bother guarding outside of 5 feet if you're playing Kansas? Teams haven't guarded DeJuan Harris on the perimeter in 4 years.
You don't have to guard KJ Adams anywhere outside the paint.
Johnny Furphy hasn't made a shot in a month.
Yeah.
Nick Timberlake is as likely to hit the side of the backboard on a corner 3 as he is to put it through the hoop. Like, you help off and you triple team or quadruple team Hunter, and that does make it awfully hard. I don't care how tall you are. If you've got guys draped all over you, it does make it a little bit harder to score. And that's the predicament that KU finds themselves in.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. When we were talking the other day about how I don't get why people, not a lot of people, not even most people, a small but vocal minority of KU fans are willing and hopeful to move on from Hunter Dickinson. It's insane to me. You haven't built a team around him that you should have built around him. Stylistically, those pieces just are not there. A team that's got for sure Hunter Dickinson at the 5, and for sure DeJuan Harris at the 1. You've got to have shooters with that group. You've got to have scorers with that group. KU doesn't have that. You had that from Johnny Furphy for 2.5 weeks, but you haven't had that all year. The closest thing you had was McCullar playing a much bigger offensive role than he had ever played in his career before this season. And then obviously the knee thing, it is what it is, but you just don't have a team that's built to score like that. So if you don't end up getting superhuman performances from, frankly, Hunter Dickinson or 2.5 really good weeks out of Johnny Furphy, I mean, where's the scoring coming from? And at least with McCullar, while he was playing banged up during the winter, even when he was, going 5 of 18 from the floor or whatever it was, you could still rely on him getting 11 points from the field and going, 8 of 10 at the free throw line. He was still scoring for you. Now where is it going to come from if it's not Hunter? That is the ultimate question here, and I don't know that there's an answer for that.
It's just guys becoming players that they haven't been before.
Which, like you illustrated, you can't bank on.
No, it's not just Timberlake and Jackson in this analogy either. It's Johnny Furphy reversing his collision course with the freshman wall. It's KJ Adams being a reliable source of offense outside of 5 feet from the basket.
And doing more than cleaning up offensive rebounds.
Right. It's DeJuan Harris being willing to score from 3 levels instead of just doing the Nash dribble underneath the basket and looking for a corner shooter who's not going to make a shot. It's all of those. It's Jamari McDowell, who's going to play some minutes in this tournament, he is nothing if not willing to shoot, but able is the question with him a little bit. So you're asking a lot. And I think in the Big 12 tournament game, we saw that it was not just asking a lot. It was asking too much. It was asking entirely too much. And I know Hunter Dickinson didn't play in that game. And Samford doesn't have anybody who can match up with Hunter Dickinson. If KU is really good in transition into press break and they get enough half-court possessions to end with Dickinson getting easy offense, there is still a path to victory for them in round 1. I don't know what the hell they're going to do against a Gonzaga in round 2 or, frankly, a McNeese State.
Can I give a take on that? And this might even apply to the Samford game. Well, Samford's different because the style clash is kind of unique.
Right.
I almost feel like you need all these dudes to play like Jamari McDowell. Like, I love the energy Jamari McDowell brings, and I think defensively he's going to be a menace, assuming he continues to develop, and the offensive game will come. I kind of want Elmarco Jackson to play like that. Like, why not at this point? No one thinks you can legitimately play the people counted us out card at this point if you're KU, to a degree anyway. Why not go 100 miles an hour? Like, why not try to do something? Go down swinging at the very least. The game against Cincinnati in the Big 12 tournament, you guys saw that up close and personal. I watched the whole thing on TV. Did that feel like KU went down swinging in that game?
Not in the second half.
Nick Timberlake was passing up open corner threes.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that. If you're gonna lose by 20 to Gonzaga, honest to God, at least go down wildly, taking swings, throwing punches.
And I guess that's the hope, right? Like, if you're trying to spin zone this into some hope for Kansas, if you are inclined to look for that silver lining, it is you are in nothing to lose territory. You are now the no one believes in us 4 seed, which is an extremely rare strand of 4 seed. It's also an extremely rare strand of Kansas basketball.
Yep.
How many times has Kansas been the no one believes in us team? And now you are. And now, not only are you that team, you're that team with a guy in the middle in Hunter Dickinson, who A, is an All-American, and B, loves playing with a chip on his shoulder in the first place. Take your cues from that guy a little bit. Go in with a little swagger. Go in with a little confidence. Go in with the belief that that name, Kansas, on the front of our jersey is worth 5 to 10 points. And play with the passion, with the fire, with the energy that, frankly, lacked in that Cincinnati game for all but maybe a 5-minute stretch of the second half.
Real quick, so Harold Kuntz of Fox 4 TV in Kansas City is on site in Salt Lake City with KU.
Yes.
Took a picture and posted it on Twitter an hour ago of the Wi-Fi access, like what networks to log on to for media.
Yes.
There are two networks.
He's going to get in so much trouble for this.
Oh, yeah, big time. The NCAA is going to come down and like rip his credential off his neck. There's two wireless networks.
A sternly worded note.
Yes. You are sharing on Twitter too loud. One network is just Xfinity Wi-Fi at Delta Center. The other one is called Jordan Pushed Off.
Yeah, that rules. Did
Brian Russell himself like set up the Wi-Fi in the Delta Center? That's really funny. Really, really funny. And some important levity when this is looking pretty bleak for KU. We'll talk more tournament basketball coming up in the 3 o'clock hour, including a postmortem for K-State season and some other issues the NCAA tournament is supposedly facing. We'll get to some baseball a little bit later on this hour. But first, more texts on the Top City Metal Supply text line, more YouTube comments from you as well. And Travis Kelce, for the first time since catching Kelce, is getting into the non-sports media world on a somewhat regular basis. We'll explain next on 580 Sports Talk. .30 on this Wednesday afternoon. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis joining you here on 580 Sports Talk. We'd love to hear from you. Dial in on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. From construction sites to renovations, from the farm to the garage, Top City Metal Supply understands the value of precision and cost efficiency. No more wasted materials, no more wasted money, just metal cut to the exact size you need. Top City Metal Supply, located on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field here in the capital city. YouTube stream also wide open for you today. Head over to youtube.com and check us out at 580 Sports Talk. Travis Kelce, no stranger to television. Obviously, he's on TV every week with his regular job, being a tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. He was on SNL, not this past season, but last season, I guess it was. Now, it was after Super Bowl 57 that he was on SNL. Did a pretty decent job overall.
Thought he did a really good job, actually. Entertaining episode of the show, which those are few and far between these days. Is anyone like... The theory is that whenever you are like 17 to 21 years old, that is when Saturday Night Live was the funniest.
Correct.
And anything outside of that time frame, the show's not funny to you on a consistent basis.
Yeah,
So,
no, that's very accurate.
Yeah. But Travis Kelce did a good job hosting the show. There were some good sketches.
He's got good comedic timing.
He really does. Like he is, if he ever does do like acting, like in movies, TV shows, like if he wanted to do that, he could be very, very good at it.
I feel like he definitely will make cameos and things.
Oh, yeah. No
whenever
doubt.
he's done with football.
I could very much see either like Brett Favre in Something About Mary, like that kind of cameo would fit him perfectly, or like the next John Cena.
I'd like to see like an expansion of there was the straight male friend sketch on Saturday Night Live.
That was very funny.
I would like to see him play that character in like a 22-minute episode, like single camera sitcom.
Like an HBO Max sitcom.
Yes.
What if he became a regular member of SNL?
He could probably do it.
I think he could pull that off.
One of the featured members.
Yeah, like who's on a few times a year, not just once in a while.
He'd honestly be pretty good at that.
Yeah.
He was also, of course, on Catching Kelce. He had his own dating show.
Did you guys ever watch that?
I've only ever seen clips.
Yeah, I've seen clips.
So I think I watched the first episode for content. I was hosting Sports Talk Radio at the time. It was not good. I'll tell you, straight up, it was not good television.
You can still watch it now on Peacock.
Yeah,
it's on Peacock.
Yes, you can watch it in full.
Oh, that's awesome. That's tremendous.
I knew it was on some platform.
Well, we have a report from Variety. So they would know this better than an NFL reporter would, probably. That the Kansas City Chiefs tight end, Travis Kelce, is in discussions to host a celebrity-focused reboot of the long-running game show Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader?, which would stream on Amazon Prime Video. The deal, if signed, would represent the football great's latest move toward general entertainment after appearances on SNL, the series Catching Kelce, and, of course, the show he does with his brother, New Heights. That's more football than it is other entertainment, I think, but they talk about other stuff too, I guess. I still think of that as sports. I sort of forgot Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader had a syndicated version. I just remember the Jeff Foxworthy original.
Yeah, I remember the original version.
Which was pretty funny, honestly.
It's a very funny concept. According to this article,
I did not realize it was ever hosted by John Cena at one point.
I did not know that either.
Yeah.
According to this article, the new version of the program would rely on celebrity guests rather than children, which I don't know. I thought the whole point was you had real live fifth graders who were smart, and these regular old people could not like come up with what is the capital of Djibouti?
Yeah, Djibouti.
Yes, correct.
Yes. What are the orders of operations? And to watch someone in their late 30s see their brain melt out of their ears on TV.
Right.
Like, that was the appeal of it.
And then, you'd have like Ruthie from like PS 132 in Brooklyn confidently recite PEMDAS.
Yeah. That was the whole point. That was the exciting part of it. So I don't know that it would work. He would be great for this role, though. I think he would be fantastic at hosting a game show, honestly, especially one that's a little bit goofier. Like, I don't want to see him hosting Jeopardy or taking Peyton Manning's job doing College Bowl. But this kind of thing, I think, fits him really well.
Yeah, I don't want him to ask real questions. I want him to ask, like, hey, what are the colors of the rainbow?
And then him halfway through to go, wait, really? That's the order? For what it's worth, I don't think he's like dumb.
I thought Roy G. Biv was a musical scale.
Like, I think Gronk might be dumb. Like, I think he legitimately might be kind of like an idiot.
Yeah, it's never struck me that Rob Gronkowski has maybe ever opened a book.
Travis Kelce, though, I don't think he's dumb. I think he's a little bit of a meathead. I don't think he's dumb, though.
Yes, and there's a difference.
Yes, no, there's very much a difference. Am I allowed to say himbo on the air? Does the FCC have rules about the word himbo?
No, absolutely
no.
not.
That has become in the modern lexicon here. That's what Travis Kelce is. Just like kind of happy-go-lucky. Like,
yeah.
I recently learned the phrase "golden retriever husband." I had not heard that phrase before.
I am in the dark here.
Yeah. So I'll tell you the story here. I got my wife will send me videos or pictures, or whatever she sees on Instagram that she thinks are funny. She'll DM them to me on Instagram.
Yeah.
And it was just this guy walking around a grocery store, and then he gets a big smile when he sees his wife holding up the camera, and he's like, hi, he's all happy to see her. And the caption just said, my golden retriever husband when he sees me in public. And she said, you. I was like, what do you mean me? It's like, I've never heard this phrase before. Like, it's not a bad thing by any means.
I am going to have to text my wife. She's still working. School day's not done yet. I'm going to text her before the show is out. I'm going to get an answer. Am I the golden retriever husband?
And like, that's what Travis Kelce seems to be to me. Just like, he's positive. Probably sees Taylor Swift. He's like, oh, wow. Look, it's her.
All the videos of him like jamming out at her concert.
Yeah.
Like, look.
Life
would happily do a trick for some sausage. Yes.
Essentially what New Heights pretty much. So no, I think he would be really good at this. And we're going to see so much of him. And it's fun. Like, I like Travis Kelce. I think he has a fun personality. He's obviously an incredible football player. If you are sick of him, though, if you live in the greater Boston area, possibly in Las Vegas, maybe
the Denver metro area,
if you're tired of him, sorry, because he is not going away anytime soon. Like, we'll probably see a lot of Patrick Mahomes forever because he just has his fingers in everything, and he's on TV a bunch too, and he's the greatest to ever do it. Maybe Travis Kelce is going to be. He's the next Peyton Manning in the sense that he's going to be everywhere forever. Peyton Manning hosts country music awards shows on television. He's not a musician.
No.
He was never in country music. He's just famous, and he's everywhere.
He tried to sing a song. He went on stage with somebody to sing.
Did he really?
And it was horrible. I can't remember who it is. Like, everyone was just laughing.
Like, so it's one thing to like remain in the public eye after your playing career. There are a lot of athletes who've done that. Like, Tiki Barber did morning shows for a while, and then people didn't want to associate with Tiki Barber, and now he does sports talk radio. Yeah. Michael Strahan obviously is everywhere. Everywhere you look, you see Michael Strahan. There have been examples from other sports, but it's really, really hard to be funny. Like, being funny is difficult. And Travis Kelce seems to be able to be funny in a way that, like, I could see him being like this is a wash reference, but have a Bob Uecker like post playing career where like he does things like Bob Uecker did.
Sure.
And maybe not necessarily play-by-play broadcasting, but, like late night guest appearances, storytelling, being the lively raconteur. I brought up Art Donovan's name on this show a while back. He was always on the late night shows telling stories of football from the 60s. Like, somebody like that, I think he's got the ability to have a very long and successful, I don't know if you can call that a career, but he's somebody who's going to pop up and you're going to be happy to see them. Again, particularly if you are a Chiefs fan currently.
There is a famous football player who has become more famous for something else he allegedly did not do, thanks to a highly publicized trial that was on TV in the mid-90s, who I kind of think of like doing Hertz commercials and still doing NFL coverage also being in movies.
The guy in the Naked Gun?
Yeah, the Naked Gun guy.
Nordberg. Let's just call him Nordberg.
Yeah.
I forget his name. Let's just call him Nordberg.
Yeah, like that guy. Like, funny role in funny movies.
Yeah.
Still on NFL coverage. Just popping up in commercials. He's just everywhere.
Yes.
Possibly without the murder. Hopefully without that part. in fact.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah. Like that's kind of what I see for him. And this is just the start. Again, if you're sick of him, tough luck, because he is not going anywhere anytime soon. Coming up on the other side of this commercial break here on 580 Sports. All right, hold on real quick. We have a comment here from YouTube. I have to get to this. John on YouTube says, not surprising nobody has ever seen John Cena on a TV show. It's his thing. That's really funny. You can't see me.
Are we all doing it?
We're all doing it. We're all doing it. That, John, that's phenomenal. All right, we do have to get to a commercial break. When we come back, did you know that the regular season for Major League Baseball started today? Because not a whole lot of people did. That's up next on 580 Sports Talk. The Major League Baseball season started today in Seoul, Korea. Was it in Seoul?
Yes.
It was in Seoul. Was it where the Kaiwoom Heroes play?
I don't remember the name of the stadium.
I know that's who Ha-Sung Kim played for when he was he's Korean, but when he played professionally in Korea, he played for the Kaiwoom Heroes. And he's obviously now with the San Diego Padres. It was Padres-Dodgers, a divisional game featuring the biggest baseball star on the planet. And it aired at 5 a.m. here.
I will tell you, I did wake up this morning to go use the bathroom, and I was like, what time is it? Oh, so I put it on my iPad, and then I conked out, and then I woke up like an hour and a half later to like somebody getting a run in or a home run. I can't remember.
Yeah, like that's what we're left with. Like, this is the first game for the most unique baseball star ever, who is a legitimate star. Maybe right now the only true star baseball has.
Yes.
And it happened at 5 a.m. Central Time, 3 a.m. West Coast time.
So a lot of people giving baseball a hard time for just being in a different country, which that's wild to me because we let the NFL cook. They kick off games before some of their fans are awake throughout the better part of their season. Nobody seems to mind that too bad.
Sure.
I don't mind Major League Baseball going to different countries. Growth of the game is important. There are baseball fans worldwide. Those Korean fans got to see a native son.
Yes. Baseball is massive in Korea.
Yes.
I have no problem with that.
The problem I have is that was the first game that meant anything this year. That's the first game that counts in the standings. And you put it at a time where it was not convenient for your American fans to watch opening day. The NFL is happy to take games to London or to Frankfurt, Munich. They're going to Brazil next year. You know what they don't take over there? The kickoff game. The first game of the season. That's in prime time at somebody's stadium. That's prime time in American television hours.
And the comparison here is someone, if you're talking about not taking the game overseas, week 1 is going to feature an overseas game for the NFL this year.
But not the first one?
Well, no, it is week 1.
Yes, but
the Friday game. Yeah, you're right. It's not the literal first game, but it's also in our time zone.
Yes.
Brazil is on a very similar clock to the United States.
So that's where I have a problem with it. And I know that Major League Baseball could make it work logistically to, in the middle of their season, have sent the Padres and the Dodgers to Seoul. Because I'm not against that at all. I think that's great. Again, the Padres have a legitimate Korean star player on their team in Ha-Sung Kim. He is, coming off of a career year. You send Shohei Ohtani over to with the Dodgers. Obviously, the Japanese market is not far away, and some of those fans might be able to make a much shorter trip to Korea to see their native son and hero play, or Yamamoto, the pitcher that signed this offseason, also Japanese.
Yeah.
Like, not opposed to this idea of them playing overseas at all, but I know you can do it mid-season because they sent the Cubs and the Cardinals to London in the middle of last season. It didn't disrupt the regular season scheduling. It didn't mean that the Cubs and the Cardinals had to take like 4 off days before they got there or came back. No, you don't need one whole week for these guys to come back from Korea and then, well, all right, cool. We got to, we'll start the season. We'll have opening day along with everybody else. Opening day is a big deal in baseball the way that it is really not in other sports, but the other sports, the NBA, the NHL, the NFL, when it is the first game of their season or the first night of their season, they put their stars on display. Who does the NBA always have? They drop their championship banner, just like the NFL does. They put their champion on display. The NHL does the very same thing. So your defending champion is on display, and baseball used to do this, and they have done it. The Royals opened their season against the Mets the year after they won the World Series in 2016. I think it was a World Series rematch to open the 2016 schedule. To put your opening game in a different country, in a different time zone, at a time where it is not accessible to your American fans, which are still the bulk of your audience, that to me, a little bit tone deaf, a little bit missing the mark. But then again, this is baseball. This is Rob Manfred. This is MLB we're talking about here. So why are we surprised?
Did you feel like this was well promoted?
I mean, I was pretty aware of it. I had been aware of it since the schedule was released last year. but I'm a baseball sicko. I think probably if you were not a super baseball sicko, you may not have been aware of this. Judging by my Twitter timeline this morning, there were a lot more people than I realized who were not aware that, oh, yeah, the Dodgers and Padres are playing in South Korea, and it's not an exhibition.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they build it as the Seoul series, as in Seoul, South Korea, which, okay, great, but I think there were a lot more people than didn't know, or a lot more people than I realized anyway, who did not know these games were going to count.
How about this? Didn't even hit me like this. Text from the 785 on the text line here. It was 5 a.m. here for first pitch. Then in LA and San Diego, it was 3 a.m.
Yeah, like that.
And with baseball being such a regional sport too, like those are the people that want to watch Dodgers Padres the most. This is not the NFL where everybody will watch the big games because that's how the NFL promotes, or even the NBA where people will watch the stars. Baseball is pretty regional in its appeal as far as teams go.
This is from my group messages, my 3 best friends. Okay. Is it just me, or did you guys also not realize there was a baseball game today? Not spring training, but an actual game. Maybe I haven't paid attention, or maybe MLB is just bad at promoting. That is from someone who works in sports, including a lot of work in baseball. Someone said, I knew there was a game. I didn't know where it was. Was it Japan or Korea? And then someone said, yeah, this is dumb. Then a week off until regular opening day.
Yeah, we're 8 days out of real opening day.
Taylor Swift got from Japan to Vegas in 24 hours, but MLB teams need 7 days to get to California?
Right? This is what I'm saying. Yeah. This in and of itself is not a bad idea. Taking your game global. The NFL does this. The other pro leagues do too. We don't bat an eye, right? All part of growing the game, building your global fan base, because our leagues are global because we have global presence on the rosters, in the dugouts, on the sidelines. The one sport we really arguably don't is the NFL, right? That's where we have the least global presence, but the most interest in growing the game globally based on how they schedule. It's making it the first game that counts. It's opening day. That's such a big deal, opening day. And you've taken that away from Dodger fans and Padres fans. You've taken that away from them. Because if you are any kind of baseball fan, opening day is the best day. It's the first day you get to watch your favorite team. All the stats are zeroed out. Your season could be anything. Depending on who you root for, you have a pretty good inkling of what it's going to be. Yeah. But it could be anything on opening day. And you've taken that away from Dodger fans, and you've taken that away from Padres fans. You have. And you take it away from kids. Because, you might be enough of a Dodgers sicko that you did set your alarm for 2:30 and put on a pot of coffee, and you were there at 3 o'clock for the first pitch that mattered in your team's season. And I respect that. Like, if you ever run into me, I'll buy you a beer for that. But kids aren't waking up at 3 a.m. to watch their heroes get to play. No, it doesn't wash with me. I don't like it at all. But here's how you knew that it was a game that counted. The Padres gagged. That's how you knew that this was a game that officially meant something, because the Padres gagged it away, and they did so in extremely creative fashion. Nobody loses more creatively, possibly across all sports, although the Atlanta Falcons and Los Angeles Chargers would have something to say about this. But nobody loses in more creative fashion than the San Diego Padres. And one of the ways that they lost today was that a surefire 3-6-3 double play ball went through the webbing of first baseman Jake Cronenworth's glove, which kicked off what ended up being a 4-run 8th inning rally in the bottom of the 8th that allowed the Dodgers to beat the Padres.
Yeah. The highlights were very funny, to be honest. I don't really care about either of these teams, but the highlights were very funny. By the way, one other international player, Yu Darvish, is also on the Padres. He started today.
Yes, he did. Yeah. He got a chance to pitch for San Diego today. I should hate both of those teams because they are in my favorite team's division. And I do hate the Padres and delight in their suffering because it's just kind of funny to me that they trip all over themselves at any time of clutch opportunity. But hating the Dodgers feels like hating air, or hating Microsoft. Like, why waste your energy? It's there. It is what it is. It's like hating trees or hating the sun.
Just inescapable.
Yes. It's just there, and it's going to win 110 games and choke in October.
That'll do it for the 2 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. When we come back after the news in the 3 o'clock hour, we'll talk about K-State's loss to Iowa last night. What's next for the Cats? We've got one got to go. And some supposed issues with the NCAA tournament, both real and fake. We'll get to all that. Your text on the Top City Metal Supply text line and YouTube comments coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Hey now, 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, bringing it your way here on 580 AM, 104.9 FM, online at 580WIBW.com, and also on YouTube, where our channel is called 580 Sports Talk. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. We would appreciate it if you'd let us know your thoughts on anything we're talking about on the show today by hitting us up either on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429, or by jumping into the YouTube stream. Again, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Comment section is open to you all show long. Here in this 3 o'clock hour of the show, we'll get to K-State momentarily. We'll talk about the NCAA tournament in just a little bit, and we've got one gotta go, plus your text and plus your comments on YouTube. Don't forget to go sign up and play in the Lewis Toyota Bracket Mania Challenge over at 580WIBW.com. You'll be able to compete against your other 580 Sports Talk listeners and listeners to our other Alpha Media Topeka stations. You'll be able to compete against Spencer, against Dan, against me.
You will definitely against me because I just put in my picks.
There we go.
Put mine in this morning. So we are all locked in.
I've still got to put mine in. So go and compete against us. If you get the first 60 games of the tournament right, so starting on Thursday until the start of the Final Four, if you get those 60 right, you win a car from Lewis Toyota. If you get the whole bracket right, guess what? You win $1 million. Why not? It is free to enter. All you got to do is sign up with an email address, and you can compete in Lewis Toyota Bracket Mania. You can find the link to Bracket Mania right on the front of our website, 580WIBW.com, and see how you stack up against the three co-hosts of 580 Sports Talk.
Hey, Brendan, earlier you talked about the KC reporter that put the Wi-Fi information.
Yeah.
out. He's not the only one. Theo Lawson covers Gonzaga basketball for the paper up there in Washington. He did the same
spokesman.
thing. Yeah.
Oh.
He did the same thing. So,
well, them two gentlemen who are maybe going to have a different seat for those games than they anticipated.
Suddenly, they are in media overflow and not on the court.
His at the end of his tweet, he said, "At least they aren't sour or anything."
Yeah, right.
To the Jordan push stuff.
The NCAA doesn't even let you take pictures of your credentials when you go to NCAA tournament games and post them. Like, oh wow, it's so cool, I'm here, can't wait for this week, here's a picture of my credential. No, they will take it away from you if you do that.
They will?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
they'll take it away from you. It says on the credential, do not post a picture of this to social media.
Yeah,
like as the terms of what allows you to keep your credential.
Interesting.
So yeah, if you get a chance to go at some point to cover the NCAA tournament, don't take a picture and post it on your Instagram, because Charlie Baker will show up at your front door and will take your credential from you and maybe slap you. I don't know if that's for sure.
And then never probably let you get one again.
Yeah, and then you might be blackballed from getting to do it again. So for our sake as well, don't do it. They're very strict about these things. The season is over for Kansas State. They lose last night, 91-80. Was it 82? I don't know if they got one more basket at the end of the game.
Yeah,
82. Lost by single digits. How about that? 91-82 to Iowa. I knew as soon as I saw the halftime score, I didn't get to see a bunch of the start of the game. As soon as I saw the halftime score, I knew it was over. K-State's not scoring, keeping up with anyone in a game like that. And honestly, showed out better for themselves than I expected them to in terms of the final score.
And that was thanks in large part to the freshmen.
Yeah.
Day-Day Ames led the team with 16 points.
Exactly what we wanted.
Shot it well from behind the arc, drove the ball, created for his teammates. It was his best game by far for Day-Day Ames. Buddy Rich came off the bench, and it was unfortunate that he got hurt in the second half.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the outcome of that injury was. He didn't return to the game. He took a bit of an awkward landing. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. But in the first half, he gave a little bit of energy, a little bit of juice at that 4 spot. He was getting downhill, getting to the rim, scoring around the rim, playing athletic basketball. Now, the reasons that he wasn't playing a lot prior to that were still very much in evidence. Notably, he did not appear to be a particularly attentive defender many times while he was out there on the court. Big part of the reason why they gave up 50 first half points. But it was exciting to see his athleticism play in extended stretches.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fun. He's a fun player to watch. And it certainly has a spring in his step, a bounce to his game. that makes him a really exciting prospect. RJ Jones didn't score, but Jerome Tang after the game mentioned that he really liked the way that Jones played in his minutes as well. So you had the freshmen play well. You had the veterans not play well. Tyler Perry couldn't make a shot and just off game shooting for him. Got some good looks. Ball just wouldn't go in the basket for him. Cam Carter was 5 of 14 from the field. Arthur Kaluma drifted through that game in a way that was really surprising to me. I mean, this is a guy who tested the NBA draft waters after last year. I would suspect he would do it again this offseason. You got one more chance to prove that you should be one of the 58 players selected in next year's NBA draft. I think there are only 58 picks. That was your effort. Like, it was really underwhelming from Kaluma, and he lost his first half minutes to Buddy Rich, and would have probably lost significant second half minutes to Rich had Rich not gotten hurt. So that was underwhelming from Arthur Kaluma. That was the effort that he put forth in that game was pretty disappointing, and sort of who was it? Was it Peggy Lee who did the song? Is that all there is?
I believe you're correct about that.
That's sort of my eulogy for Arthur Kaluma's junior season at Kansas State. Is that all there is? I thought there'd be more. Was that all? Is that all there is?
So I don't want to give away too much paywalled information here because these guys deserve to get paid. And you should go subscribe to 24/7 Sports and go PowerCat because they do a great job. But we're going to talk to Fitz a little bit later on. Ryan Gilbert, who we've had on the show from Go PowerCat before, his focus, his beat is K-State men's basketball for the most part. He's got a post up right now over on the message boards at Go PowerCat, who I think will stay and who I think will leave. And I don't want to give away too much, but if I will say this, if you think that might be it for Arthur Kaluma in purple, you are not alone. I will just go subscribe and read their work, but I will give you that tease.
We have mentioned repeatedly that this coming NBA draft stands to be one of the worst in history in terms of the talent level entering the draft. That being said, I recently read Sam Vecini of The Athletic, who does a lot of draft stuff and is as good as anybody.
I think he's the best
doing draft evaluation. He said he tiers his players. Like, there's tier 1 players, there's tier 2, there's tier 3. He says he doesn't even have a tier 2 guy in this draft.
So no tier 1 or tier 2?
No.
I believe it.
No tier 1 or tier 2 players in this draft.
I was discussing this over dinner with a buddy of mine yesterday. There's a very real chance that the number 1 pick in the NBA draft is Reed Shepherd, who's a really good college player and a good shooter and a legitimately very good player for a good Kentucky team. Reed Shepherd in an average NBA draft would be what, a fringe lottery pick?
Yeah. He's only 6'3".
Yeah. And he might be the number 1 pick in the draft. And again, good player.
Yeah.
Probably a useful NBA, 3-and-D guy in the NBA. Small, but
here's the other part of that too, is that if it is not him, it will be somebody that you, the listener, have probably never heard of.
Frenchman?
Yeah, somebody, French kid.
Yeah. I don't know his name off the top of my head. I just know he's French.
I don't remember his name. Which
all-time great example of coasting on somebody else's coattails.
Right.
Oh, he drafted a big French guy last year. He's pretty good.
Yeah, it worked once. Let's try it again.
Yeah.
Back to my point about Kaluma. I read Sam Vecini's mock draft. He was not in either of the 2 rounds. He was not a drafted player.
Honestly, and I don't mean to pile on the guy. I don't. Yesterday was bad. I mean, that was a really bad look for him. But honestly, why would you take Arthur Kaluma at this point? What about the Knox and Creighton that we talked about when he committed? And they were taking plays off, and he had as much talent on a very talented Creighton team, couple of Creighton teams, as anybody. He would take plays off, and he would take games off, and they couldn't find the consistency. And that's why Greg McDermott wasn't all that sad to see him go. And the point was, if K-State can maximize that dude's talent, maybe that wouldn't have made them a tournament team this year, but it certainly would have helped. You get too many games off like he took last night. And last night, look, man, he didn't even care. And he's talked about how the Tomlin situation kind of messed him up because he wanted to play with Naquan Tomlin. I get that. But, dude, you still got a job to do.
There were flashes from Kaluma, and I think he's
flashes of greatness.
Yes, and I think he's a better shooter now than he was when he was a younger player. But that's about the only area where he's improved. And I don't think he's improved meaningfully enough to feel like I didn't feel like I was watching an NBA player when I watched Arthur Kaluma this year. There were brief glimpses where you could see it if you squinted. And that's disappointing because he was brought in to be what Jerome Tang talks about, dudes, right? He was brought in to be a dude, and he was something less than a dude. And Tyler Perry, same thing, brought in to be a dude, something slightly less than a dude. And that's the difference between being in the NCAA tournament and being in the NIT.
I feel like for Perry, I'm more willing to not hand wave it. I mean, there were games where he was bad or he was inefficient and K-State couldn't deal with that. But he also had to play out of position the entire year. And that part's not his fault. Did he need to play better? Yes. Was it his fault he had to play the one when he's really not a true one? No, that's
right.
That's because of Quest Glover's injury, and that's no one's fault.
And he had some moments. You know, he really had some moments. Tyler Perry hit some big shots. They don't win the KU game without him. If nothing else, Tyler Perry will always have that game where they beat Kansas at Bramlage Coliseum. He was the hero that night.
I think last night's game's a little different if Iowa's Peyton Sanford doesn't have a career night. His career high previous to last night, I think, was 25 points.
Oh, yeah, he hit a bunch of shots.
He hit 7 threes, career high.
7 of 11 from 3.
7 in the first half.
They were 11 of 23 as a team, Iowa was, and Kansas State was 8 of 30. And then there was a huge free throw disparity and scoring wise.
Yeah,
that was different.
And I think too, for that game specifically, he's not at the top of the scouting reports, right? Going into that game. But you look at the fact that you were still in this game. There was never a moment, even though K-State was getting outplayed for a lot of the game on that end for Iowa, there was never a moment where it was like, okay, this game's over. Like, it was not a blowout. K-State was at least lingering the entire game. How different is it if you get a full effort from Arthur Kaluma, though? Or you get one or two other things that are turned up a notch?
Yeah, you needed one of your top scorers to go bucket for bucket with Sanford, and they didn't. And again, I didn't think that Perry's shot selection wasn't great. Just ball wasn't going in the basket. For Carter, disappointing finish to the season. Just really looked like he had turned a corner and entered Big 12 play looking like a guy who could maybe earn some all Big 12 honors. Not necessarily first team, but he felt like one of the better players in the Big 12 to me, and just completely petered out the last month and a half. And Kaluma, same deal. Like, they brought Arthur Kaluma in to be like an all Big 12 player, to be what Keontae Johnson was last year. And he wasn't that. And that is why you're here. If I tweeted this last night, you're Jerome Tang, you're not trying to build your entire roster through the transfer portal year in, year out. That's not really a sustainable way to do this unless you're always batting 1,000 when it comes to the portal. You have to thread the needle between developing young players and getting impact from the transfer portal. And they weren't able to thread the needle on that this year because the freshmen as a whole, they weren't quite ready. The play from Ames in particular really improved down the stretch, but in those games where they really hit the skids midway through Big 12 play, Ames wasn't playing particularly well. He didn't find his footing until later in the season, which again is not unexpected for a freshman player. They didn't get quite enough from Perry and Kaluma. They were brought in to be capital D dudes, and they were, again, something less than that. And that's how you get, again, 19 and 15. That's how you end up there. You hit a solid single in the transfer portal, maybe a ground ball double down the line, but you did not hit the grand slam that you hit last year with Keontae Johnson, where you bring in a guy for 1 year and he's an All-American. And so that's how you get here. Also, there were two things that this team was sorely missing, and Kansas State had them, and neither of the two players who could have maybe filled in the biggest blanks, which were a tall person who could play outside of 2 feet from the basket and a combo guard with some ball handling skills and some veteran know-how. And those guys that could have filled those holes for K-State played a combined 0 games for K-State this year. And that's not Jerome Tang's fault. It's not. That's not anybody's fault. It's somebody's fault, but we don't need to relitigate that.
So you also asked us, and these are in our notes here, the turnovers with K-State.
So 2 seasons for Jerome Tang. His teams in turnover rate How many teams are there in men's college basketball, Division I men's college basketball?
363 last year, 362 this year.
So out of 363 teams last year, Kansas State in turnover rate ranked 259th. That's not what you want, right? But it does bear noting last year that when K-State needed to lock in for big games, they did. They kept the turnovers down. I think they turned it over 8 times in the Sweet 16 game against Michigan State, just as an example. They were careless at times, but when the stakes were highest, Kansas State did a better job taking care of the basketball. This year, out of 362 teams, you said?
362.
362 this year. Would you care to guess where Kansas State's turnover rate ranked this year?
348.
349. That's an incredible guess.
Yeah, because I have the numbers in front of me.
Oh, well, there you go.
I had them up when I brought up the topic, and then I got stuck.
That's all good. So, 349. So, this is the question that I have for Jerome Tang's Kansas State Wildcats moving forward. Is the turnover problem a bug or is it a feature? It had better be a bug. It had better be something that you can correct. It had better be something, and I think it is personally, because Tang has talked extensively the last week and change about needing to value the basketball more, needing to bring guys into the program who value the basketball more. You can't sustainably, you can't put together a tournament caliber season, especially not in a league as good as the Big 12, if you are giving the ball away at a level only exceeded by 13 other teams in the entirety of Division I men's basketball. That has to change. And I don't know why it's been such a big problem for Kansas State, but valuing the basketball is a very real thing. And Jerome Tang's teams not valuing the ball, that can't be a feature. That cannot be a feature of Kansas State basketball. That has to be a bug. That has to be a bug that you can patch.
Especially when you play in this conference, because think of who's already in this league. And KU, for all the things KU has struggled with offensively, what are they really good at doing?
Playing in transition.
Playing in transition.
Well, most teams are, because A, you get numbers, and B, you get easy shots.
Right, exactly. And look at the other teams in the league that gave K-State fits with that. The newcomers from this year. Houston's already great, but BYU, way better than anyone expected. They're probably only going to get better recruiting Big 12 level talent. Cincinnati is going to get better. UCF, despite only being an NIT team, who thought they were going to make an NIT this year? I thought they might win 8 games all year. They were way better than anyone expected. They're going to keep getting better because they've got money and they've got talent-rich recruiting grounds in Central Florida. And then you add Colorado, you add Arizona State, you add Utah, you add Arizona. This is not going to get easier to live like this. You've got to figure that out. Because if you are going to be in the bottom, 10 percentile of all of college basketball in terms of turning the ball over, you're going to get killed in this league.
Yeah.
Killed.
Yeah. You can't sustainably win. You can't build a team that's going to put together a tournament resume year in, year out if you are that profligate with the basketball. It just doesn't work. And at least with last year's team, like I said, down the stretch, when the games really mattered, when it got down to the marrow, they did take better care of the basketball. They were less reckless with the ball in some of their biggest games. And this year, you can look at the Texas game in the Big 12 tournament. They only turned the ball over 10 times and see the value of taking care of the basketball. Why this team failed to do it the other 33 games this year, beyond me. But it has to change. That's why, and this is the other question I pose to you. When you talk about priorities for this coaching staff, what they have to go and get probably in the portal, because right now they've only got one commitment from the high school class of 24, and that's David Castillo, who I think is going to help. I think he is going to help ball handling. I think he's going to help playmaking. But Kansas State must find a veteran guard who can distribute, a pass-first point guard, if you will. Somebody who is able to create, somebody who is able to take care of the basketball. They have to find that guy in the portal. And they've got to go get a skilled big. That was the other thing that stood out about Iowa last night. Iowa's big dudes. The kid who was the freshman of the year in the Big Ten, whose name I'm already blanking on because I didn't want to really linger on having watched an NIT basketball game. Owen Hoffman.
Freeman.
Owen Freeman. And the other big kid, Cricky. Like, these aren't the tallest gentlemen. They aren't maybe the bulkiest, but they're strong enough to hold their own in the low block and score, and they can step out and make a jump shot. They can step out and make a three-pointer. Again, Kansas State had a player
had
like
that guy.
They had that guy this year, and he, his offensive rating this year was 133 with a 19% usage rate for Memphis. If you don't know what those stats mean, just know that he was really, really good for Memphis.
Very good.
Even though they didn't make the tournament, Naquan Tomlin was really good for Memphis.
Imagine if you had a coach who knew how to coach. That's the difference. Sorry, I didn't need to pick on Penny like that. But
so they've got to find some bigs who are a little bit more useful in terms of playmaking, in terms of stretching the defense, helping you with spacing, because David Gasson, he made like 3 3-pointers this year. Every one of them felt like a miracle.
Yes.
Jarrell Colbert, I don't think should ever attempt a shot outside of 3 feet. And Will McNair, the black hole of Manhattan, never once considered passing the ball out of the post when he caught the ball on the block this year.
So let me tie this all together, because I'm curious what both of you think. You having seen this team up close and personal the last couple of years, Spencer having seen them for just a couple of months, but also seeing them intimately here at the end of the season. How concerned are you about roster churn? Or in other words, does there need to be a lot of roster churn? Like among the young guys, like I would like K-State to start building their future partially around Day-Day Ames. Like I want him to be a core part of the next NCAA tournament team for Kansas State basketball. I think they've got a real player there. I think, I think David Gasson is a useful player. I would not be opposed to seeing him come back. I have doubts about Arthur Kaluma coming back, though. Some of these other guys that have eligibility left, I don't know. I don't know what K-State wants to do with these guys, to be completely frank, which is not necessarily a good spot to be in. You'd almost rather be in a spot where like, we got to move on. Like, that was spot KU was in a year ago, right? Like, hey, we might like Joseph Yesufu. We might like Cam Martin. These guys can't play at this level. We cannot have them on our team if we want to contend. Things have obviously hit the skids in that regard, but they knew they had to move on from those guys. I don't know where K-State falls here. So I think you're sort of treading this weird boundary between we want to keep most of these guys, or a lot of these guys anyway, because we want to continue to develop, and we feel like maybe we weren't fully developed this year, and we feel like there's a core there we can build from. But also, we had a whole year where we were one of the 15 worst teams out of 362 in the country when it came to giving the ball away. We didn't get ourselves enough easy shots. We didn't win enough big games. We had no meaningful road wins. We've got to do a big-time refresh, almost like we did, maybe not quite to the extreme level, but almost like we did our first year with the program. I don't know what the answer is.
Well, you can't do a refresh because that would be 3 years of refresh. And what that
fair enough.
Yeah, you can't do that.
What that level of roster churn gets you, ask Bruce Weber what that gets you. Because that was the end of the Bruce Weber years.
That's
right?
true.
Like that's what it started to look like, where Weber couldn't keep his freshmen, his recruiting classes in-house. And he had guys leaving the program left and right. You keep having to rebuild with young guys or in the transfer portal. They've got to hang on to a chunk of these guys. I know that there is, some fear about some of the freshmen leaving, like Jones and Rich. I know there's some concern about that. There's some concern about Cam Carter and Arthur Kaluma not coming back. You've got to keep your freshmen in-house, and you have to be able to build and develop those guys. There's something there with Buddy Rich. There really is. It's something exciting that you've got to get him right, and you've got to get him bought in. But if you do, I think he can be a really good player in this league. Day-Day Ames really started to come on, and I think could be a fine point guard in the Big 12. RJ Jones is going to help them shooting-wise, I really think, in the future. And you have to be able to, though, maintain your roster. So you've got a foundation that you're then adding transfer portal pieces to. So instead of taking 5 to 7 kids out of the portal every year, maybe you're only taking 2 or 3, and then you can be more intentional.
Yeah.
Your NIL resources can be directed more intentionally, and you've got a better chance of hitting those home runs rather than the singles and doubles.
Yeah. I think too, it's already good to see that they're at least looking in the portal during this week. Like they've already started some of that recruiting
Getting
in the portal.
Jump on it.
There's a guy at Queens transferred, Dayton Albury, who's already heard from K-State. The only thing is, looking at some stats, is he turns the ball over at least 3.5 times a game.
Sounds like a K-State Wildcat to me.
He fits their MO.
Yeah, right. He's right up their alley. We've got 2 quick YouTube comments I want to get to here before our commercial break. One from John. Our freshman killed the play hard chart last night. Yeah, that's probably true.
Man, K-State fans already invoking the play hard chart again.
This one, from
I just hope that this year is the floor for Kansas State, right?
I hope so too.
Like, if this is the floor, then this is going to be a really good program under Jerome Tang moving forward.
This one from Jayhawker. Question: would you rather watch Virginia play basketball or get waterboarded for 2 hours? We are going to talk about that coming up in just about 10 minutes, in fact. First, though, we've got a round of One Gotta Go coming up on 580 Sports Talk. One's got to go here on 580 Sports Talk before we get back to the NCAA tournament. All right, boys, need you to open your closet for this one. One's got to go from your wardrobe. You got the T-shirt, you got the polo/golf shirt, sweatshirt, or the quarter zip. One's got to go.
You know I am a quarter zip aficionado.
I know you're keeping that one.
I'm big time Team QZ in the winter and the fall. As much as I appreciate the professionalism of a polo and the fact that I can go out on a golf course wearing one, I can also do that in a quarter zip. I always feel anytime I wear anything more formal than like a quarter zip pullover, I feel like I'm playing dress up. I really do. Like if I am wearing anything more formal than jeans and a hoodie, it's like, this is a monkey suit. This is not a representation of me. I don't feel like I've worn a suit like less than 10 times in my life. One of them was to get married. That doesn't really count. Like I'm not comfortable dressing up, man. I mean, I don't think I look particularly sharp in a suit. This is me, right here. So yeah, the polo I could move on from.
This is a hard one because I got so used to wearing polos in my last job because we had work polos.
Sure.
And you just had to wear a polo every day. That was the expectation.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I started buying polos. So I wasn't wearing the same ones every week.
Right.
That weren't my work ones. So and then golfing, like I guess that would be the one that I would have got to go because I wore it too much maybe, but I still enjoy wearing them.
See, that one's got to go for me because I hate polo shirts. I hate them. I would rather wear dress pants and a button-down shirt than wear a polo. I don't know why. I don't have a good reason. I have since I was a little kid. I just do not like them at all. Quarter zip, sweatshirt, T-shirt, wear them every day. I do wear T-shirts pretty much every day.
Yeah.
As soon as it's not 50 degrees outside, I will be wearing them every day.
All right, one's got to go. The 4 regions in the men's NCAA tournament this year. Which one is the least compelling or interesting to you? The East, the South, the Midwest, or the West? For the record, the East is the Yukon region. The South, that's where Houston is the 1 seed. The Midwest is where Purdue is the 1. And the West is where North Carolina is the top seed.
So the least intriguing?
The least intriguing. One of them's got to go. Like one of them you're not really dialed in on.
Well, the East has to stay. That one's bonkers.
Yeah.
The Midwest is with KU suddenly not having one of its best players. That one is certainly tumbling down the rankings here. I think, although there's a lot of potential for higher seed upsets in that one, I think I am going to say the least interesting to me. Gosh, this is a good one. I might go with the West. I think I might go with the West. North Carolina, the 1. Arizona 2, Baylor 3, Alabama 4. I've picked a couple of upsets in that one, but I don't know. No one really gets me going. Like I even really like St. Mary's. I picked them to go to the Final Four as a 5 seed. St. Mary's is not always exciting. They play a lot of just murder ball and just try to squeeze the life out of you. I like Aiden Mahaney. He's fun. They've got a couple of players who are fun, but I'd probably go with the West, slightly over the Midwest.
Yeah, I'll go with the Midwest, and I think it hinges on really Kansas. I think Kansas could have, like, if they had everyone healthy and they were going to make a run at the 4 seed, that'd be pretty exciting to watch. Just them take down everybody if they were able to do that. But Purdue, I think Purdue is going to lose like relatively early, maybe Sweet 16 appearance, but I don't think they're going to make it past that.
See, that makes it compelling to me. Like the possibility that we could see Matt Painter and Rick Barnes flame out again in spectacular fashion. Yes. Hook that to my veins. No, I think you're right. It's the West. Like I can't even look at the West regional teams without yawning. Such a boring region.
Could have spread out the East massacre a little bit more into the West.
Seriously. Like if you'd swap the 3 seeds, put like Illinois in the West and swap the 3 and the 4, put Illinois and Auburn instead of Alabama and Baylor, then we got
that evens it out a little bit.
Yeah, we'd have a stew going for sure.
No, I'd agree with you on that. You have one got to go?
Yeah. It kind of lines up weird, but it's like just sporting events that just got to go. Like one of them's got to go.
Okay, we're throwing one out.
We've got 4 here. This heavy scrutinized, obviously, in the last 24 hours. The first 4 just go 64 teams.
Okay.
The international series is, whether that's in baseball and AMLB or in the NBA.
Okay.
I don't think the ML or the NHL doesn't really.
They do. Sometimes they sent some teams to Finland this year.
I guess, but a lot of those players are from there.
Yeah,
like from those countries.
It's
so
a true home game.
Yeah. So either that, the 14-team playoff, adding another set of teams to what they already moved to 12.
Okay.
Or professional all-star games.
Oh, all-star games. Throw them in the trash. They're garbage.
I can only get rid of one of these.
Throw out all-star games. They're done. We have cable. We've had cable for decades. We don't need this. The NBA has League Pass now. You can watch any player you want anytime. Also, most NBA fans are like half of our respective ages anyway. They just watch 5-second clips on TikTok, and that's all they care about anyway.
Nah, the correct answer is
I sound so freaking old.
you do. You really do. Okay, boomer.
I'm right, though.
No, the correct answer is a 14-team playoff because not only is it ruined college football, it's going to ruin college sports. It's already in the process of ruining college sports.
Yes, it is.
So,
yeah.
What are you getting rid of?
I am getting rid of outside of the country games.
Is it the time thing?
Yeah, it's the time thing.
Or are
it's
you
like,
just a xenophobe?
No, it's the time thing. Like this is these sports are the National Basketball Association, the National Football League. These,
More like Nationalist Football League over here.
They're not the international.
This is America.
Like they're American sports,
We
right?
play our games in America.
Here's what I want. I want a club World Cup for other sports.
Hell yeah.
I want the
have that.
I want the Nuggets to play
Barcelona.
Yeah. I want the champions of the ELF to come over and play at Jerry World against the Chiefs. I actually don't want that.
I don't
that
want
would
that.
be
Nobody wants that.
That would be horrific.
Do baseball and basketball.
Fine.
Yes.
All in on that.
I want, yes, give me a 3-game series between the champion of the Japanese Baseball League and Major League Baseball. Give me a real World Series.
Actually, another sport that this would be great for, now that we have an actual budding professional league, I want to see international club volleyball. I would love to see that. Like some of those Brazilian teams that are really good. But now that we're keeping some of our American players in the U.S., I would love to see something like that. Coming up next, Virginia is an abomination. They should probably no longer be allowed to have a basketball team. That and made-up problems from Tom Izzo. Those are coming up on 580 Sports Talk. couple NCAA tournament notes I want to make sure we get to today. We'll talk some Chiefs coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. We'll get to Tim Fitzgerald at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour as well for the Wildcat Wrap-up. Off today at 5:30 because we've got coverage from Westwood 1 of the first 4. 2 more games tonight. Let's start with the disgusting, wretched embarrassment to Dr. Naismith, who is now rolling over in his grave. That was Virginia basketball last night, which went nearly a full hour, not 60 minutes of basketball, but a full hour on the clock. Like the big hand and the little hand made a full circle around the clock.
It was 52 minutes to be precise.
Before Virginia scored points at one stretch last night. I have never, and you can correct, you're a little bit older than I am. You might have a deeper base of knowledge than me. Spencer, maybe I'm forgetting something. I cannot remember a time in which everyone knew that a team should not have made the tournament. I have not seen a single person. I follow a lot of college basketball people. I've watched a lot of college basketball TV. Many of my best friends, super into college basketball. I cannot imagine a time or remember a time when not a single soul thought, yes, it is a good thing that this team made it to the tournament. I haven't even seen Virginia fans be like, yeah, hell yeah, we're in. All of them were like, nah, man, this ain't going to end well. We don't deserve this. No one thought Virginia getting in was a good idea because their offense sucks. They have no talent at all outside of Reese Beekman. None. They're pathetic.
That wasn't a
and then they played like it.
That wasn't a team having an off night. Like sometimes you watch a team in the NCAA tournament, they just have a bad night. Like that nasty case of ball will not go in basket. And it's just, man, this is rough. They're running good stuff. They're getting good looks. They're just not making shots. That wasn't what that was last night. That was a bad basketball team. Verifiably a bad basketball team playing the sport of basketball poorly in a way that everybody could have seen was going to happen. And yet, how did this team, it ranked in the 70s in the Ken Palm, a team that I believe failed to score more than 50 points 4 times in their final 9 games this season. 50 points in a 40-minute basketball game. And they almost couldn't do that half the time in the most important time of their season. We all could see this coming. And why does this team make the tournament? Because Tony Bennett lucked into a national championship one time.
So here's the thing about that. And I saw this from Brian Rauff from Heat Check College Basketball last night. He tweeted, here's the thing about Virginia's offense. This isn't a system issue or a Tony Bennett X's and O's issue. UVA simply does not have anyone that can create on their own. There are only 3 guys worth putting on a scouting report. There's very little offensive talent. I agree with his overall point. That roster sucks. Like, that's not an ACC roster. That's not a Big 12 roster. They stink. Outside of Reese Beekman, they have nothing. And when you've only got one guy and you play in a league like that, or you get to the NCAA tournament, you know what you're going to be able to do? Effectively nothing worthwhile. That team's talent stinks. But the problem with Virginia specifically is while their X's and O's can win, they won a national championship. You know what else that team had? Multiple NBA players. DeAndre Hunter is a rotational NBA player, or at least was. I haven't heard from him in a while. I don't pay a lot of attention to the Hawks. Kyle Guy was at least kicking around for a while. Ty Jerome got, I think, a couple of 10-day contracts. Like, these guys were kicking around for a while. They have nothing. No one wanted to see them in. No one wanted to watch that offense with that level of talent play on this stage. And the committee, I hope, is embarrassed.
They were 211th in Ken Palm adjusted offense going into the tournament. That makes Kansas State look like the 2015 Warriors. Like that is so disgusting. And it was extremely predictable that it would go the way it did. But why were they in the tournament and not Indiana State? Because Tony Bennett won a national championship. Because they're in the ACC. They're the 3rd best team in the ACC. We can't leave the 3rd place team in the ACC out of the tournament, right? Man, they were so bad, I almost redid my entire bracket. I can't pick any ACC teams to win any games. No. I have 2 ACC teams in the damn Final 4. The 3rd best team in that league is that?
Yeah, like, why? Why do we need that? So that brings me, and we've had so much talk, and we have talked so much about the committee and about godforsaken Greg Sankey, who is an enemy to the people at this point. I am declaring, at least for myself, Greg Sankey is persona non grata, and we should act that way because he is trying to take away one of the few things left that our country has that shouldn't be divisive, that we can all agree on is great and good and pure and American in all of the most idyllic ways, the NCAA tournament. And he's trying to take that away from us. And so are nincompoops like Tom Izzo, who, like I said at the top of the show, I have never liked. I've always thought he was a rat. I always thought he was smarmy. I always thought he was overrated. Is he a good coach? Yes. Is he a Hall of Fame coach? Yes. Has he earned those Final Four bids and that one national championship that he will never be able to do again and the Big Ten might never ever be able to do again? Yes, he did. All the way back in the year 2000. I've never liked the guy and his personality or the way he handles himself or the way he speaks. And that brings us to the interview he gave earlier on today. How about this quote, transcribed by David Hale of ESPN? Tweeted out this morning, Tom Izzo says auto bids for mid-majors has, quote, got to be looked at seriously because, quote, while everybody likes the upsets in the first round, I'm not sure if that's true as it goes on. Also agrees that more former coaches and players should be on the selection committee. Oh, you mean like your friends?
Guys who played for you?
Yeah, guys who played for you and your buddies.
Turn the selection committee into, the good old boys club. And then every year you get in with a 19-14 record. No, this is a dinosaur because that's what Tom Izzo is. He's becoming a dinosaur in this era of college sports. And these are the consequences. You make a dinosaur think that, well, we can't have March without Tom Izzo. January, February, Izzo. Can't have March without Tom Izzo. And when you make Tom Izzo feel like, well, you can't have March without me, this is the kind of thing he says because he understands that the returns are starting to diminish on Tom Izzo as a head coach. His teams have not been as good. He is still recruiting at a high level, but his players don't end up actually playing well. This year's team went 19-14 with 3 quad 1 wins. This is all about the major conference basketball coach who might, God forbid, lose out on a 6-figure bonus if they don't make the tournament, who might lose half their roster to the transfer portal the day after the season ends because they didn't make the NCAA tournament, and then who might have to, heaven forbid, work harder at their job, hit the portal a little harder, do more to get good players to win more games to get into the tournament, do a little more at your job instead of coasting on your past accomplishments.
I look at, and I obviously sound biased saying this, I feel like I've made my fair share of criticisms toward Bill Self this year too, specifically roster construction and the people he recruited. He has complained at times or bemoaned some of the changes in college basketball. You know what else he's done? He's adapted to them.
Yes.
He's worked the portal. He has done everything he can to continue to adapt. It doesn't always work, but that's sports sometimes.
You know what else he's done? Won a national championship where the highlights are in high definition.
The funny thing about this being Izzo this year too, like if this was, this was Danny Hurley saying this, I'm like, dude, come on, what the hell? This is a bad take. This is wrong. Tom Izzo should not open his mouth all week because all of those teams on the first 4 outline that we saw on the NCAA tournament bracket reveal show, you have Oklahoma, you have Indiana State, you have St. John's. Was Providence fourth?
Seton
Hall. Every single one of those teams is more deserving of a spot. 3 of them high major than Michigan State is. Tom Izzo should shut up and not think about speaking because his team shouldn't be there in the first place. Why are you drawing more attention to yourself and your fraudulent team?
We're going to ruin this NCAA tournament so the dinosaurs can walk the earth for just a little bit longer, make their jobs a little bit easier, make sure they get those 6-figure bonuses. And meanwhile, we're going to ruin this thing. We're going to expand it, and we're going to get more games, more teams in the tournament. Do you want more Virginias?
He had another quote in here, by the way. It's all about what is best for the financial part of it, if I'm going to be very blunt, more than it is the players and teams. Let your presidents and chancellors worry about that. That's not your job, Tom. Your job is the players and teams. So what? You've got your millions, dude. Stop caping for the NCAA. Give me a break. We're talking Chiefs to lead off the 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. More than halfway home on this Wednesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzynski here with you, along with Dan Lucero, along with Spencer Dupuis. We're here with you until 5:30 today. Off then because we've got coverage of the first four from Dayton, Ohio coming up tonight. The back half of the first four, in fact. Your games tonight do not feature Virginia, so that is a plus for absolutely everybody involved. First game of the evening will be the 16 seeds Grambling in their first ever tournament against Montana State. And then in the second game, we've got Colorado versus Boise State.
Featuring KU great Cam Martin.
Cam Martin, who had a big play to help seal a win for Boise State a couple games back.
Yeah, had that block shot at the end of the San Diego State game. Yeah, I was watching that game. That was during state basketball, so I was in my hotel room. I watched the end of that game, and it was like I was overjoyed to discover that, wait a minute, I know who that is. That's one of the greatest players in the history of the MIAA. That's Cam Martin.
That's true. Man, what a career. From Jacksonville State to multi-time All-American at D2 Missouri Southern to national champion redshirt at Kansas to Boise State to 1 year not redshirting at Kansas where he played like 8 games, and then to Boise State where he's like their sixth man, I think.
Yeah, he plays quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, what a career, and such a very strange way. We would love to hear from you. Hit us up on the Top City Metal Supply text line. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. No more wasting money on metal pieces that leave you with unnecessary leftovers, guys, because Top City Metal will cut the exact lengths of aluminum, steel, and stainless steel that you need tailored to your project's specifications. Start optimizing your budget today with Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field here in the capital city. Tim Fitzgerald will join us this hour. What is wrong with you this hour? Your YouTube comments and texts in this hour. But we did want to start with the Kansas City Chiefs. A couple pieces of news here. One, Mike Edwards is officially out of here. He is signing with a rival. Are the Bills a rival?
Yes.
I would say so too.
Yeah. Playoffs.
Yeah, now, the Bills and Bengals are much more rivals to the Chiefs than any of the AFC West teams.
I would agree with that. I would certainly agree with that. He's headed to the Buffalo Bills. 1 year deal for Mike Edwards. Did you see the dollar amount? Was it 7?
I have not seen the dollar amount. No.
I can't remember if I have seen it either.
So it sounds like it's going to be him and Taylor Rapp at safety for the Bills next year, which good luck. I mean,
and Damar
Hamlin.
Yeah. I thought Rapp also got released. Oh, no, he signed an extension. Okay. I thought I saw that they were going to let him walk, but no, he signed an extension with them for a couple of years.
The fastest safety group in the league.
No. Taylor Rapp as a reserve has been more than fine.
Yeah, like that's how I feel about both of those guys. Like that's how I feel about Mike Edwards. I feel like Mike Edwards did an admirable job being called upon to step in for Brian Cook, but if you've got to start him for all 17 games plus the playoffs, you might wish you didn't have to do that. I think he's a very good third safety.
I would agree with that.
Maybe that's not fair. Maybe that's just what he was this last year, and maybe he learned some things in Spagnuolo's system and given another opportunity to start, a fresh opportunity in Buffalo. Maybe he'll be a perfectly cromulent starter for the Bills.
I mean, he had been a good starting safety in Tampa. Well, part-time starter in Tampa. He was an off and on starter with them. Part-time his first few years, then full-time his last year in Tampa before he came to Kansas City. Did you know he led the NFL in fumble return yards last season?
No, I did not.
101. That was the most of anyone in the NFL.
Huh.
He returned 2 fumbles.
I always like to have a little black ink on the Pro Football Reference page.
Right. Always good to see for Mike Edwards. No, he's a good player going to Buffalo. Buffalo needs cheap talent on their defense badly, and you could do worse. You could certainly do worse than Mike Edwards.
Good luck to him. He's a champion forever.
Do you know where he went to college?
Kentucky.
Also spent time in Hawaii. Also, it's the link on his Football Reference page links to the wrong Mike Edwards. It links to a guy who played at UTEP.
Awesome.
That's not who we're talking about. SportsReference.com.
Not that the season's going to start today or anything, or in the next week or two.
Mm-hmm.
But if the season were to start today, the Bills couldn't even fill the full roster. They have 46 players on their roster.
Well, 7 rounds of the NFL
That
draft.
That includes
7
2 punters,
picks,
too.
46 plus 7 is 53. We're all set.
They have 2 punters as well.
Next man up, man.
They have 3 safeties, 2 punters among that group.
So they do have a bunch of picks this year. They've got a first, a second, 2 fourths, 3 fifth-round picks, 3 sixth-round picks, and a 7th. And then I guess they're just going to take a ton of undrafted free agents, and that's what they're going to end up doing. I don't know what to expect from that Buffalo team this year.
Yeah, no idea.
This very much feels like a reset kind of year for them, which, players don't ever act like that, but their offense is not better.
It's sort of where the Chiefs kind of felt like they were 2 years ago, right?
Right.
All right, we got the franchise quarterback. We got him locked up long term. And now we kind of have to get a little bit younger around this player while still seeing if we can remain competitive on the back of this player. That is a difficult pivot to handle. That's a tough maneuver. That's like parallel parking on the first shot. It's not an easy thing to do. The Chiefs obviously pulled it off. Do you think the Bills can do the same? I don't. I think they're going to find it a little harder than the Chiefs did.
Yeah, that's probably true because Josh Allen's really good. He's also not Patrick Mahomes. That's your big problem right there. If you are the Buffalo Bills, yeah, I'm just not sure what to think. I mean, I wouldn't put them right now. Who's the number 1 contender in the AFC? Who's the number 1 contender?
I'm going to say it's Baltimore, pending the result of what happens with T. Higgins in Cincinnati.
Okay.
I think they're going to have to trade him. Would T. Higgins is posting like Martin Luther King Jr. free at last, like free me memes. Like,
yeah, maybe a little unnecessary.
Yeah, he would like to be somewhere else is what it's starting to sound like.
Here's my big worry with the Baltimore Ravens. Spencer's playing right tackle for them. And I might be at center. Like they
Spencer, what's your 3-cone drill time?
I did that in 5th grade. 6th grade, 7th grade, something like that.
Those numbers might be a little outdated at this point. Like they have lost 3 offensive line starters this offseason. That's a lot of faith in the guys you have as your backups and maybe the draft. Now, Baltimore does draft well. I'm not sure if any team, and the Chiefs have drafted really well lately, and there are some teams, Green Bay and Pittsburgh generally. I'm not sure any team has drafted better over the last, 20 years than Baltimore. Every year, they just wait for the guy who everyone knew was going to be good, but falls because their relative athletic score was a little bit too low, and then they just take him and oh, yeah, this dude's great. Tyler Linderbaum was a center. I think they took him 25th overall a couple years ago. Everyone said, no, you can't take a center that early. Then they did, and he's probably a top 3 center in the NFL. I was joking about me snapping. They do have Tyler Linderbaum. Kyle Hamilton, 2 years ago, I would have made what I thought was a credible argument. He was the best defensive player in the entire draft. He fell to 14 because he ran a slow 40 at the combine. Baltimore took him. He's a top 5 safety in the league. He's really good. That's what Baltimore does. So that's my big worry with them going into this year, or at least going into the draft, which is the next big date on the NFL calendar. I still think the Bengals are there with a healthy Burrow, although he's had a lot of injuries in his career so far. And this wrist thing is weird. It's a very strange injury. I wouldn't put the Bills in the top 2, though, and I don't know if – are they 3rd?
Are they 3rd? I mean –
I don't know. Their roster is not going to be very good this year.
I think Houston. I'd put Houston above Buffalo, and
I would listen to that argument.
I might still be underrating Houston.
I think they're going to be really good.
I think they're going to be awesome.
Really, really good. I like what they've done in free agency. I think Stroud is the real deal. They're going to get Tank Dell back.
They might be the ones. I forget who it was. It might have been Orlovsky. Somebody on ESPN said that the way they're loading up kind of reminds them of how Cincinnati loaded up once they got Burrow healthy. I can kind of see it. I can see the vision. right now, if I had to power rank them, I think I might go Baltimore. Ooh, man, a little more certainty around Houston than Cincinnati right now.
Sure.
So yeah, I go Baltimore, Houston, Cincinnati. That's how I'd rank the top three. Then Buffalo after that, and Buffalo, Miami. You can order Miami above Buffalo if you wanted to.
Yeah, I would do that.
Because you know what Miami's got? A bunch of playmakers. You know Buffalo's
at least
got?
For this year.
Josh Allen.
Yeah. No, that's true.
That's
and Stephon Diggs, who in theory is very good, was really good for 8 weeks.
Well, James Cook played like Marshall Faulk for 2 months last year. Let's not forget him.
Yeah, I think Cook's a good player.
Yeah.
I like Cook. But
Curtis Samuel, can't forget about him.
yeah. Commander great, Curtis Samuel. So that's Mike Edwards moving on to the Buffalo Bills. I also saw this week from Arrowhead Report at Sports Illustrated. Our guy, Jordan Foote, we'll get Jordan on the show here soon, get a little off-season check-in. But he and Josh Briscoe over at Arrowhead Report, they did a little back and forth about what the Chiefs should do at left tackle. And it made me ask, do the Chiefs need to repeat the Donovan Smith signing? I don't mean bring back Donovan Smith. I'm good. I don't need to go through that again.
Thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you. Enjoy the ring. Your second ring, in fact, because he won one in Tampa. Good career for Donovan Smith. Doesn't need to happen again in Kansas City. There are other decent tackles out there who you have to pay maybe not even a whole lot of money to, and I'll get you some names here in a moment. But even without a name, does that feel like something the Chiefs should be considering this year? Maybe that ends up just getting us to the question, do you think Wanya Morris can be your starting left tackle?
I don't know how I feel about that. I thought Wanya Morris showed some flashes, and I think that betting on him to be able to handle 17 games in a playoff run at left tackle, that's a bet on Andy Heck as much as it's a bet on Wanya Morris, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a bet on your player development. It would be nice to not have to use draft capital, which is scarce for the Chiefs this year, on a left tackle option, or a financial outlay, a significant financial outlay, where your cap room is a little bit limited this offseason on a left tackle. So the theory of, hey, we drafted a guy, he spent a year learning, he started a couple games, he's ready for the big show. A year of Andy Heck's tutelage, and Wanya Morris is a starting caliber NFL left tackle. That's a nice theory. In practice, do you trust it? The Chiefs obviously have a lot of equity, I think, not just with me, but with anybody who has followed them, anyone who has covered them, anybody who has rooted for them. If the Chiefs were to say Wanya Morris is our guy, I would trust it. If Andy Reid were to say firmly, we think Wanya Morris can start at left tackle and we can have a championship caliber offensive line, I would say, all right, I believe it.
No, I agree with you. I'm in 100% agreement with you. Is that approach better than going out and adding a guy like, and here's a list of guys who are available right now, David Bakhtiari? I mean, it'd be awesome if you could get David Bakhtiari, but you don't know that he's going to play.
You want David Bakhtiari of like 4 years ago.
Right. You want him before his knee became roast beef. Like, you don't know that you're getting, you don't have to pay him because the Packers are paying him, but he might only play 4 games in December. Like, you don't know whether he's going to play. Charles Leno, former Commander, former Chicago Bear as well.
He's about retired, essentially.
I don't think that's any better than Donovan Smith from a year ago.
But I think he's done with football. The way that his wife was posting afterwards that he got cut,
done.
He basically, she said it's time for him to be a stay-at-home dad. So I think he might be done with football here at 32.
Dwayne Brown, who is 38 years old.
I mean,
feel like a Chief move?
Not really.
Not really. Andre Dillard is awful. You're not signing him. Mekhi Becton, who's a right tackle. I just sorted this by all tackles because you could move Juwan Taylor. He'd be comfortable playing left tackle. Mekhi Becton as well. You don't know that he's going to play. He's been hurt a bunch. And you're not going to find guys without warts at this point. Like,
right.
Everybody is going to have something. Donovan Smith had something. He cannot block for the run. Like that, and he is just kind of okay. He was coming off a bad year. But you banked on the previous 8 years or 7 years of his career. Those are the kind of risks you take here. I think it will tell us a lot about what the Chiefs feel about Wanya Morris if they make a signing like this.
Yeah. If they go out and get a guy who's like clearly a swing tackle, like Andre Dillard to me and Mike Remmers, like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, right?
Sure.
Like Mike Remmers is a guy who started games in the league and could stand in and play the position and mostly not embarrass himself unless he was going up against somebody in the Super Bowl, in which case I refer to Mike Remmers, not charitably, and I feel a little bad about it, but not really, as 2-time Super Bowl least valuable player, Mike Remmers.
Mm-hmm.
Because Von Miller won his MVP at Super Bowl 50 because he was up against Remmers all night.
Pushed him like a tackling sled.
Shaq Barrett should have won the MVP of Super Bowl 55 because he got to bully Mike Remmers for 60 minutes. Anyhow, neither here nor there. That if you're signing a player who's like obviously not a reliable starting option, either because of their age or because of their health or because of their like caliber of player that they are, because all of those players you just listed off have one of those three things as a legitimate concern, then yeah, that's not a starting option. You don't go into a season where you expect to win a championship and say that guy at that point in his career is locked in as our left tackle. That, to me, if they went and signed any one of those guys, that would be a pretty big vote of confidence to Wanya Morris. Or if they waited and drafted a prospect in the second or third round, like they drafted Wanya Morris last year, that would be a vote of confidence, I think, to Wanya Morris as well.
What would you do in that position?
I don't know. I mean, you got to draft somebody, clearly, is what you're going to do here. I don't know. Maybe you wait until closer to training camp. Maybe somebody else becomes available. There's not a lot of true left tackles out there.
The guys who become available at that point, though, aren't starters, though. Like, nobody's releasing a starting caliber left tackle as a post-June 1st move.
For what it's worth,
That's
the
true.
Chiefs signed Donovan Smith on May 3rd of last year. So, I mean, give you a little more wiggle room in there. I mean, that's true third wave of free agency stuff. I don't know. Maybe to the point about drafting, maybe you end up in a situation where you go with a three-way competition. Maybe you bring in a day 3 draft pick who you're betting on the traits at that point. You bring in an Andre Dillard or whoever, Matt Filer, throw a name out there, a guy who's still out there, and Wanya Morris. And you say, let's see how camp goes. Maybe that's the way to do it.
You just need competence, right? You're not asking for find an all-pro. I mean, if Wanya Morris is developed into an all-pro, hey, wonderful. That would be like the dream. But you have gotten to championship level the last few years with, I would say, decent left tackle play, right? Like, the Pro Bowl 2 years ago, Orlando Brown Jr. And Donovan Smith, I thought, in large part, outside the penalties, was fine.
It's okay.
Like, you could live with it. So that's sort of the bar. That's sort of the Mendoza line for left tackle play, right? Like, the Chiefs either have to feel like Wanya Morris can get them better than that, or they should be looking for something.
On YouTube says, if Morris is the guy for KC, bring in a vet to push him, but one that can also be a solid replacement if Morris doesn't take the steps the Chiefs want him to take. I think that's fair. I think it's very measured to take. Like, you also have a backup plan in case he doesn't take that step forward. And again, that's where maybe a Dillard or a Filer or a Shua Udoga or one of those guys comes into play where, hey, we're not getting the confidence we want. Let's try it. Let's try it with one of these veterans. Maybe that's the move that ends up making sense for the team.
Or, like you said, they could look for Juwan Taylor to left tackle and think about what right tackle might be.
Yeah, that's certainly possible as well. Coming up next, we've got What Is Wrong With You here on 580 Sports Talk, and Tim Fitzgerald will join us for the Wildcat Wrap-up here on 580 WIBW. is Wrong With You time on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, and Spencer, our current winner for the week here on What Is Wrong With You. The in-person bomb threat, the guy who was mad that planes are flying overhead, spraying him with chemicals, those chemtrails. So he showed up at the airport, Page Field Airport in Fort Lauderdale. And, or was it Fort Myers? One of those two.
I think it's Fort Myers.
Yes, you were correct, Fort Myers. And said that he was going to essentially kill the people working there.
Yeah. I'm gonna blow this airport up.
No, sir, you cannot do that. He is now in jail.
You know, I'm not kidding, because I know where you're at. I walk.
Just to really hammer home the point. All right, Dan, you're up first today. What you got?
All right, we are meeting Garrett on spring break of the Daytona Beach, Florida. We meet 26-year-old Alyssa Langley and Tiffany Stevens. They are engaged, married.
Well, good for them.
And they got drunk on the beach. When they woke up, they appeared to be unaware of their surroundings. It's a problem because they had 2 children with them, aged 5 and 7. And when Stevens was asked about the location of his children, he gestured to reveal. The sheriff's deputy on body cam video asked, "You don't know where they are?" They did not know where they were. They were swimming unsupervised in a pool at a nearby.
Thank God.
Sheriff Mike said, "It boggles my mind that you would drive here incorporated and, allow a 5 and a 7-year-old to wander off." One woman staying nearby, parenting expert, quoted by WSBN, "If you don't want to be responsible for your children and that's what you want to do, then find people to watch them and help them."
Yeah, you can tell.
The situation concerned when Stevens was flees from law enforcement only to trip and fall and knock himself unconscious. He face planted in the concrete, resulting in visible facial injuries and an ambulance being called. Both Langley and Stevens were arrested and charged with child neglect. Sheriff Chitwood said, quote, "Clearly these 2 clowns shouldn't be in charge of, they can't be in charge of themselves, let alone a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old. Get them."
Yeah, man. I like that this couple was wearing matching bathing suits, too. That's nice.
Yeah, with
Yeah, good. I feel for the kids.
yeah, that's here's hoping they're speaking live. Care more about them than they do about being drunk and calling something being.
Because I make soapbox just very quickly, momentarily here. I do not drink, but I respect everybody's right to make a choice for themselves. I always thought this when I go to the beach, though. People who are just getting absolutely hammered with their families. Like, you're here with small children, man. Like, they're going to be in bed by 8. Can you wait to get smashed?
No joke.
Like, hang with your kids a little. They're 5 and 7. They probably want nothing more in the world than to hang out with you. Which, in not much time after that, they will not ever want to do again.
Right? Like, that's the sweet spot age.
Like, throw the football around.
5 and 7 years old, they still think you're cool.
Bring a frisbee.
By the time you get to 13, 14, they're just going to roll their eyes at everything you do.
Yeah, come on, man. These people suck. This dude's especially an idiot. They are clowns. Good for Sheriff Chitwood. He's right on.
Telling it like it is.
For my story today, have you guys ever watched Bar Rescue?
I have not.
I've seen clips of it.
I'm familiar.
You're familiar with John Taffer, the Bar Rescue guy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, he is claiming that there's some guy prowling around Florida bars and restaurants pretending to be him and pulling sketchy moves with women while he does it, according to a federal lawsuit that Mr. Taffer has just filed. The Bar Rescue star says Vic Corolio, or Corolio? We're going to go with Corolio, has been passing himself off as John Taffer in and around Naples, Florida for more than 3 years, and even brags on social media about their resemblance. He even boldly commented on one of John's posts about his new book, writing, "My twins, so they say." He looks like if John Taffer was out the sun too long, I guess. According to court documents obtained by TMZ, how are you pronouncing this?
Carolio.
Carolio's primary gig is as a television preacher. And in parts of New York, his sermons are aired just a few hours after episodes of Bar Rescue on the same channel. Taffer says that's no coincidence, accusing Carolio of trying to bolster his ruse that he is actually John Taffer. John says Carolio has even gotten credit cards with the name John Taffer on them and allegedly used one during a dinner date in Naples in Florida, a move the woman who he was with found fishy enough to rat him out. We've got long text messages about this. He was driving a Tesla, had credit cards with John Taffer's name on them, was just a total sleazeball. Taffer's attorneys say that they had the woman contact Taffer's office, texting that Carolio, while acting as Mr. Taffer, was extremely touchy and inappropriate. There are also other stories of this guy doing the same thing with other women.
What's up, ladies? I'm the bar rescue guy.
I'm from
But he's a minister too.
What was that? Yeah,
He's a minister.
televangelist.
A reverend bar rescue guy.
Carolio is being sued for invasion of privacy, and Taffer also wants a judge to ban him from continuing to pretend he is John Taffer.
Really funny. Like, obviously not him being a creep.
Yeah.
Making women uncomfortable.
No, that's very bad.
Really, that's awful. But, like, going around and, hey, I look like the bar rescue guy. How do I make this work for me?
Like, is that something like when Spencer walks up to someone in a bar and says, "Hey, I'm Luke Combs." Like, okay, Luke Combs, like that has some pull. He's one of the biggest music stars in the world right now. Who is saying, "Oh, shoot, dude, that's the bar rescue guy"? Who is doing that?
Like 23-year-old dudes are the only people impressed by bar rescue guy.
Bro, it's John Taffer,
Yo!
Bro.
Yo, bar rescue guy, come flick it up one time for the gram.
Let's do shots.
I did shots with John Taffer. Like, no, what woman is saying, yes, I want to be with the bar rescue guy?
Well,
The money.
I wasn't going to go out for dinner, but he is the bar rescue guy.
This is very funny. Police, please do not let this man pretend he's me anymore. Yeah, that's pretty funny. All right, who you got?
Fake bar rescue guy.
Yeah. Bar rescue guy.
I'm going with that one too. I think that one's really funny. Does that beat the in-person bomb threat?
I don't think so.
Because I'm gonna say yes. I want you to cast a tie-breaking vote here, Brendan.
My reasoning here is that you don't
We
see
sold.
in-person bomb threats. So that guy's just, what are you doing?
Yeah, but you
What's
also
wrong
don't
with
see
it?
people imitate John Taffer.
I mean, I feel like there's people that are that. I mean, like, heck, people in Vegas are Elvis people.
But that's also Elvis.
Yeah, that's lucrative. Like,
You've convinced me even more. I'm going with fake John Taffer here. I'm going with the fake bar rescue guy. I think that's really, really funny. Also, he didn't threaten to kill anyone, which is important here. That's our new winner and What Is Wrong With You. Tim Fitzgerald joins us next on 580 Sports Talk. Joining us now on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline is the one and only Tim Fitzgerald, the publisher of GoPowerCat.com, which is part of the 24/7 Sports Network. We were talking about that great stuff over at GoPowerCat earlier on in the show today. Go subscribe. It is absolutely worth it for all sorts of great insight into the Cats. You can find Fitz as well on Twitter at @LifeOfFitz. What's going on, Fitz? How you been?
I'm good, man. I'm really good. I'm just now realizing I haven't done all my work for the day. I'm a loser.
It's a hell of a way to start.
Yeah, well, I wasn't prepared for that. You are also not, Fitz. You work hard. You deserve an afternoon off or a morning or an all day.
We just podcasted for more than an hour. Now you guys do what, like 21 hours a day? I can't remember how long your show is. It's like 27 hours a day, something like that. Anyhow, me doing a podcast for 1 hour, and my brain gets worn out. I gotta do something else, and I got to talk to you guys, which is something else.
Yes, dropping the IQ level down probably a little bit coming from the Go Power Cat team over here, but we do appreciate the time, Fitz, as always. Real quick, if you saw a guy who looked like John Taffer from Bar Rescue in public, what would your reaction be?
I used to watch this show all the time, and then it just became so obvious that it was just all a big put on. I'd probably, if it was actually John Taffer, I'd yell at him. If it's just some guy that looks like John Taffer, I'd yell at him less.
Our What Is Wrong With You winner today was a guy being sued by John Taffer for impersonating John Taffer.
What exactly would this guy do? How do you
creep on women?
Oh.
Yeah, kind of our reaction to the whole thing.
I thought it would be like he walked into bars and started yelling at people.
That's what I would do if I looked like John Taffer. I'd go pretend to rescue bars.
No, I'm going to get free drinks. Like I'm getting, peanuts. I'm getting appetizers. No, he was.
I need to sample all of your top shelf liquor, and I need to do it right now.
I
Your
also need
best
you to call me a
drinks.
cab.
Your signature drink. I need it right now.
Yeah, no, he was
For
just
free, of course, because I'm John Taffer of Bar Rescue.
Hold on. If you're posing as John Taffer, whatever his name is, the big dorky guy that is biggest claim to fame is he's the inventor of the butt funnel. Look, it sounds worse than it is. It's a trap point where all his customers got to go through, and I don't understand it at all, but he's very proud of it. And you choose this power, like a superpower, to hit on women. Why wouldn't you pick someone, say, more attractive?
That's why it's What Is Wrong With You, Fitz. I don't know.
If I'm the judge, I don't rule in Taffer's favor. I just punish the guy for, dude, pick someone else.
Oh my God. We're talking to Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com here on 580 Sports Talk. It's the Wildcat Wrap-up. We do it every Wednesday at this time. From John Taffer to the National Invitational Tournament. What a clean segue that is. K-State season is over. Fall to Iowa last night, 91-82. The freshmen did pretty well for themselves. They were probably among the very best players for K-State in the game. What did you think about Arthur Kaluma's effort last night, Fitz?
Total crap. Look, this was a big topic on our podcast that'll go up tonight at midnight. But I like Arthur a lot, but his varying interest in how hard he's going to play in a game bugs the hell out of me. I mean, there's sometimes when he's completely engaged and awesome and looks like an NBA player, and then he'll disappear for a week or two. I don't understand how that happens. He just becomes indifferent, and I just lost my patience with him against Iowa because he just didn't want to defend anyone. He just let people go, and that's not how you do it. So I was a little frustrated by a lot of things, but not the young guys. But the young guys were pretty darn good.
The young guys, and I think Day-Day Ames is going to be a really, really good player. And you've got RJ Jones, and I know Buddy Rich has a lot of fans as well. Do you feel like and I don't know exactly what, I wanted to use the word contending. I don't know what that means, but do you think that can be the core of an NCAA tournament team, like a top half seed line team, if you had Ames, Rich, and Jones as your core?
Yeah, not next year, but yeah, it can be. It can, and that's what Jerome Tang wants to get to. He wants veteran guards, so he's having to go to the portal because he didn't inherit any other than Marquise. We saw the value of that. I don't know if he's fully ready to make his backcourt next year. Sophomore Day-Day Ames and freshman David Castillo. I'm sure they're going to go get a veteran guard. I'm positive of that. But I do think the future is really bright if they keep these guys intact. I think they're all got an upside. Day-Day Ames really reminded me of Jacob Pullen last night. He was hitting his threes. He was breaking. Jacob made a lot of mistakes when he was young. Frank let him play through it, and he turned into the all-time leading scorer for Kansas State. So I'm all in on letting Day-Day play more. That was my one disappointment in the season is I ended up watching guys that were veteran and knew better not play well. I much rather have freshmen make mistakes from which they can learn and not play well than what I saw most of the season.
Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com is our guest, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. This is the Wildcat Wrap-up on 580 Sports Talk. We do it every Wednesday at this time on the show. Tim and the crew at GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, do outstanding work. Subscribe today. And, of course, you can find Fitz on Twitter at Life of Fitz. Obviously, Fitz, the transfer portal is going to open up, and there are going to be departures from this Kansas State roster, not just the graduation losses or the loss of eligibility losses of Tyler Perry and Will McNair. But if Jerome Tang had his druthers, if he got to make the decisions for these players, do you think he brings back a bulk of this roster, or are there some guys that maybe there's mutual interest in not having back in Manhattan next year? Let's put it that way.
No, I think there's going to be some guys that are asked to move on and some guys that might move on their own. But I think they're going to have a number of openings. I think I know he's fully aware that this wasn't a fully functional team. You can go back and look at the loss of Naquan Tomlin, the injury to Quez Glover, and make a point that this team could have been better with those guys. But I really think this went off the rail. I think I mentioned this in the previous show when they lost Max Asmus in the portal recruiting to Texas. Now that was their guy. I mean, they were eyeing a backcourt of Asmus setting up Tyler Perry, and that would have been really something else. So I think they're going to be really aggressive in the portal and try to, fix some things. And to do that, you got to have room on your roster. I don't get into who I think will leave just off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's fair to the kids, but I think there will be departures.
What's an appropriate number, you think, of spots to fill if you want to be able to have some continuity and be able to build something that lasts and not just be overly reliant on the transfer portal impact on a year in, year out basis? What do you think is an appropriate number of roster spots to be filling on an off-season by off-season basis? And again, if Jerome Tang has his way, he's only got one high school senior signed. That's the aforementioned David Castillo. Do you think there are another couple of true freshmen he brings into the program, or do you think that the vacancies for this roster will be filled almost predominantly by portal guys?
I think mostly portal guys. Maybe if a freshman signed with someone and then there's a coaching change and they want to be released, maybe that brings another true freshman in. But again, I come back to this. He wants veterans. And until they can get their internal numbers up and running with recruiting, I think there's going to be at least 4 other players signed to go with Castillo. At a minimum, I think. And they've got some work to do. They know they've got work to do to fix some of the pieces in the roster. And what really went wrong this year is they were just missing pieces. It wasn't that the kids weren't good enough they just didn't fit together. It was like a beautiful puzzle, but two of the corner pieces are missing. It's just not a complete picture at all. And that's where they really got into trouble. And I think they're going to be more conscious of putting together the roster instead of just getting the players.
What is the highest priority? What is priority number one to add to this team? I mean, there are certainly multiple holes that you're going to have to patch. That's just the way it goes. But what is the thing that you believe Tang and his staff will prioritize in recruiting, whether that's high school ranks or the portal?
They're going to look for a dynamic point guard that can score. They absolutely are. Even though Ames and Castillo are technically point guards, I know that they want better ball handlers. And if they could put those three guys on the court together, which make you awful small, but they'd be really happy. The ball handling wasn't just offensive to the fans and, those of us in the media who had to watch this. I can't imagine how it drove them nuts, and it did. So they're going to improve on all those things so that maybe they can move Cam Carter off the ball a little bit more and, maybe make him a three. But they want a veteran guard, and they certainly need to find someone that's going to be the guy. That Tyler Perry was brought in to be the guy, and then circumstances dictated that he wasn't really the guy because he was playing in a different position and it didn't work. But I think they need to do, and they know that.
Fitz, how badly do you think this K-State team, Tang and the coaching staff, want to keep most of this roster together for next year?
I don't know that there's at some point it's business.
Mm-hmm.
And, as much as he loves the kids in the locker room, it's also not daycare. It's a job. And if he doesn't feel like you're now qualified for the job, you're not in a position to help them, you're going to be ushered out the door. And I think that's bad news for some guys on this team that I think are underperforming.
Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com joins us here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. And Tim, the women's tournament tips off Friday. Kansas State gets to host the first weekend. They're taking on number 13 Portland. What do you think the Kansas State women's ceiling is in the NCAA tournament this year?
Well, I think it's sad that they set them up where if they win both games in Manhattan, which they're very capable of, although Colorado's going to be a problem. If they get through these games, I just think it's really unfortunate they set them up with Iowa for a third time. And I just think that was poor planning by the committee. And because I don't see them beating Iowa a second time this season. So I guess Sweet 16, for me, if Iowa makes it there, is probably the ceiling.
The Iowa game, you mentioned that, Fitz. I was sort of excited when we saw the bracket because I thought, dang, if there's any team in the country outside of South Carolina that I want to see play against Iowa, it might be Kansas State because they've already beaten them a couple of times in recent memory. And granted, they have played a ton. You're right about that. Is that part of it exciting at all, that maybe there's a chance that K-State could be the team to knock off Caitlin Clark for the last time?
You know what? It is. I mean, Kansas State's won 2 out of 3 over the last 2 seasons with this Iowa team. The same Iowa team that went to the national championship last year had a loss to Kansas State. So I think it is a good matchup. But for me to feel like they're going to win that game, I got to see them revert to how they were playing earlier in the season here this weekend in Manhattan. I need to see signs of that team that beat Iowa this season in Iowa City. I need to see that team make an appearance at Bramlage Coliseum because they haven't quite rekindled that since the return of Ilka Lee. And if they really want to make the run, they got to get back to what they were.
How cool is it that Manhattan gets to host this weekend?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And, in all honesty, there was a lot of tension about would they get that 4 seed because it's only the top 4 seeds in each region. And I think they were more guaranteed in that role because of the attendance that this team has had this year. I think we're about 1,000 tickets away from a sellout for this venue.
Awesome.
You just don't get places. I think that was real important to the committee to put this somewhere where women's basketball is important. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if there was discussion about Colorado being the 4 and the K-State the 5, and they said, but we want these games in Manhattan. Let's flip-flop them. And that works K-State's advantage. They should get credit for if you're going to have home sites be hosts for first, second round, then the schools, that has to be a factor. The schools that sell tickets.
Tim Fitzgerald is the publisher of GoPowerCat.com. Head over to GoPowerCat for all the best coverage of all things K-State sports. Make sure you're following Fitz as well on Twitter at Life of Fitz. He joins us every Wednesday at this time on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline for the Wildcat Wrap-up. Thanks so much, Fitz. We appreciate the time. Enjoy the women's tournament in Manhattan coming up this week.
Absolutely. I will be there covering on Friday for sure.
That's Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com, the absolute best of the best. We've got half an hour left on 580 Sports Talk coming up after the news. final half an hour of 580 Sports Talk coming your way. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis with you until 5:30 when we're getting out of here for Westwood One's coverage of the first four of the NCAA tournament. We've got Montana State versus Grambling State, and we've got Colorado versus Boise State. Those are our two games tonight. You'll be able to hear them both in their full broadcast form right here on 580 WIBW. If you've missed any of the show today, either head to our website, 580WIBW.com, go to the podcasts tab and click on 580 Sports Talk, or you can head to YouTube, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Go check out the live stream. You can watch us until the end of the show today, and you can rewind, go back, watch the old back catalog of shows as well. All that on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel. Your YouTube comments are welcome in this final half hour of the show, as are your texts on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. From construction sites to renovations, from the farm to the garage, Top City Metal Supply understands the value of precision and cost efficiency. No more wasted materials, no more wasted money, just metal cut to the exact size you need. Top City Metal Supply, located on South Topeka Boulevard. Why don't we jump right into today's 580 Sports Talk headlines? Some breaking news in a story from the LA Times involving the most famous baseball player in the world. And quite literally the world. He's in Korea right now with the LA Dodgers.
This is
Dodgers.
wild.
Shohei Ohtani's attorneys accuse his interpreter of, quote, massive theft tied to alleged gambling. That is the headline from the LA Times, a quartet of writers all working together on this story. Representatives of Dodgers superstar Shohei Ohtani on Wednesday accused his interpreter of engaging in a, quote, massive theft of the ball players' funds to place bets with an allegedly illegal bookmaker who is the target of a federal investigation. This is insane. So here's where this all comes from. Lawyers for Ohtani made that claim after the Times learned that Ohtani's name had surfaced in the investigation of Matthew Boyer, an Orange County resident. Ohtani's representatives looked into the actions of his interpreter, Ippei Mizuhara, in response to the Times' queries, a source close to the matter said. Two sources told the paper that the money involved was in the millions of dollars. In a statement, the West Hollywood law firm Burke Brettler said, quote, in the course of responding to recent media inquiries, we discovered Shohei has been the victim of a massive theft and are turning the matter over to authorities. Attempts to reach Mizuhara were unsuccessful. He placed these bets with Boyer, according to the sources, who requested anonymity to share sensitive information. Mizuhara was then fired today. He was in the dugout during Dodgers-Padres this morning, tonight in Korea. He was there. He was at the game, working.
That's wild.
More details from ESPN. Initially, a spokesman for Ohtani told ESPN the slugger had transferred funds to cover Mizuhara's gambling debt. The spokesman presented Mizuhara to ESPN for an interview Tuesday night, last night, during which Mizuhara laid out his account in great detail. However, as ESPN prepared to publish the story, the spokesman disavowed Mizuhara's account, the spokesman for Ohtani, and said Ohtani's lawyers would issue a statement, which they have. The statement, in the course of responding to recent media inquiries, we discovered that Shohei has been the victim of a massive theft, and we are turning the matter over to the authorities. The spokesman declined to answer any further questions, and the statement did not specify whom they believe perpetrated the alleged theft. It was a $4.5 million transfer. We know this now from ESPN.
That's insane.
At least $4.5 million in wire transfers sent from Ohtani's bank account to a bookmaking operation.
This is crazy. They're like best friends.
Yeah.
He was employed by the Dodgers and previously the Angels. That's his main employer, but he was also as far as I'm aware, like a personal assistant as well to Ohtani.
Like, I know the guy's name.
Yes, I knew it before this case.
Shohei Ohtani is famous enough that you knew the name of his interpreter if you followed baseball. The developments this week, this is from ESPN, came as federal investigators are examining the operation run by Southern California bookmaker Matthew Boyer. Multiple sources, including Mizuhara, told ESPN that Ohtani does not gamble and that the funds were intended to cover Mizuhara's losses. Sources close to the gambling operation told ESPN that Boyer dealt directly with Mizuhara, who placed bets on international soccer matches and other sports, but not baseball, starting in 2021. A source said Boyer was aware of the name on the wire transfers, but chose not to ask any questions as long as payments came in. However, the source said Boyer allowed people to believe Ohtani was a client in order to boost business. In the Tuesday interview, Mizuhara told ESPN that he asked Ohtani last year to pay off his gambling debt, which multiple sources said had ballooned to at least $4.5 million. Mizuhara said he had previously placed bets via DraftKings and assumed bets placed through Boyer were legal. Obviously, Ohtani wasn't happy about it and said he would help me out to make sure I never do this again, Mizuhara said. He decided to pay it off for me. I want everyone to know Shohei had zero involvement in betting. I want people to know that I did not know this was illegal. I learned my lesson the hard way. I will never do sports betting ever again. But Wednesday afternoon, Mizuhara told ESPN that Ohtani had no knowledge of his gambling debts and that Ohtani had not transferred money to the bookmaker's associate. So, Major League Baseball's biggest and brightest star is now ensnared in a gambling scandal.
That he didn't even gamble on.
Happy opening day.
Yeah, I mean, this is a nightmare for Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
And specifically for Shohei Ohtani, who, by the way, was the victim of a bomb threat this week.
Yes, there was a bomb threat called into the stadium where the season opening game was played.
Yes, specifically calling out Shohei Ohtani.
Wild.
Mizuhara told ESPN on Tuesday his bets were on international soccer, the NBA, the NFL, and college football. I never bet on baseball, Mizuhara said. That's 100%. I knew that rule. We have a meeting about that in spring training.
I mean, this is outrageous. And really, really bad. And I mean, I know we've only heard Ohtani's side of this. I mean, we've heard some of it from Mizuhara as well.
And this is incredibly detailed. Like the Los Angeles
great
Times,
reporting.
Yes. The Los Angeles Times had the news item. ESPN's done a ton of reporting. And obviously, they've talked to Mizuhara. After Ohtani agreed to pay the debts, Mizuhara said on Tuesday, Ohtani logged onto his own computer and sent the wire transfers under Mizuhara's supervision in installments over several months last year. They added loan to the description field in the transactions. We had to add a description for the wire, Mizuhara said. I think Boyer might have just told me to put loan. You had to put something. Asked why Ohtani didn't simply give him the money instead of paying Boyer's associate directly, Mizuhara said Ohtani didn't trust him with the money. He didn't want me to gamble it away, Mizuhara said.
Mizuhara said he told Ohtani he would pay him back. Bro, with what? You're not the one playing.
Mizuhara, though, walked back much of what he had said late Tuesday, saying Ohtani had no knowledge of his gambling activities, debts, or efforts to repay them.
This is bad, man.
Yeah, this is not what, but bad, but inevitable, man. Like the closer and closer that the major sports leagues get to gambling, the more and more that the major sports leagues embrace gambling.
This is being investigated by the feds. Like, this isn't Ipe was like loading up his FanDuel account. Like, this dude was a criminal today, just like he was 20 years ago.
Just my broader point is the more and more that you have the bleed over between the leagues and the gambling, then more and more you're going to have people think that's just normalized behavior. Just betting on sports becomes something that they just do compulsively. Like, obviously, if you're losing $4.5 million, you've got a problem. Like,
yes, that is certainly true.
There is a big difference, and I am not just saying this because I have, in the past, full disclosure, received money from places that do sports gambling in exchange for endorsements for such things. I feel like that. I feel like I should be forthright and say this, preface my comments about sports gambling by saying this. I do not think inherently sports gambling is a bad thing, is a thing that you are guaranteed to get addicted to, but it is much like we see advertisement for alcohol a lot, and people get addicted to that, and it can be very, very harmful. And in a different kind of way, but in a real and impactful way, people can be addicted to gambling. There's a reason that we say things. There's a reason there are disclaimers. There's a reason we say things like only bet what you can afford to lose. There's a reason the leagues say those things.
This Boyer fellow is a real scumbag based on some of the reading here. Writing bad checks to casinos, obviously running illegal books. Yeah, this is... The one thing that is a no-doubter here is you do not want the face of your sport to be involved in this. Like, this is... Even if, and I have no reason not to believe for now that Ohtani did not know about this, although changing your story within one day is not a good look for Mizuhara. Like, I have no reason to believe Ohtani was intimately involved here, but you don't want this around the face of your sport at all. This is bad news. Bad news. But that's our headline of the day. Without question, Shohei Ohtani's interpreter fired. They're still there.
Yes.
Like, what do you do if you're Mizuhara? Like, do you fly back to the States? Do you fly somewhere where you can't be extradited? Like, what do you do at this point?
The thing that is just jumps off the page to me is changing the story and going from, oh yeah, Shohei knew I was a terrible gambler and he was just cutting me some big checks to cover my gambling losses, to, well, actually he knew nothing about it. Like, if that's the pivot you're making in the story you're telling, and then Ohtani's lawyers are saying he was a victim of theft, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah, I mean...
That doesn't sound benign.
No, it sounds bad. This is really bad. There's no doubt about that. Holy cow.
Yeah, this is... happy opening day, Rob Manfred.
Yeah, no kidding. Good stuff, Rob. Hey, at the very least, at least most people don't know it was opening day.
Yeah, this is true.
Let's get to some other headlines here.
Yes, let's go to some NFL rule changes. The NFL's competition committee has proposed a pair of new rules. One, a revamped kickoff that resembles the alignment previously used by the XFL. The kickoff proposal would be the most significant on-field rule change for the NFL in years and is designed to reverse more than a decade of declining return rates while also lowering concussion rates. This from Kevin Seifert of ESPN. In essence, the committee's proposal would move the majority of the kicking and return teams downfield to minimize high-speed collisions. If approved by at least 24 of 32 owners, the rule would go into effect for 1 year only. So picture this. The kicker would kick from the 35-yard line, but the other 10 players would line up at the opposite 40-yard line. At least 9 members of the return team would line up in a setup zone between the 35 and the 30-yard line. Up to 2 returners can line up in the landing zone. No one other than the kicker and returners can move until the ball hits the ground or a player inside the landing zone. So everybody freezes in place. The kicker kicks the ball, and then as soon as the ball hits the ground or is caught or touches a returning player, then the action begins. Then the kick return teams, which are less than 10 yards away from each other, the return team and the coverage team would then engage as they would typically engage to try and set up a return. That would also eliminate the surprise onside kick because you would have to inform officials of your intent to line up in the traditional onside kick formation. The other big rule change being proposed is a rule that would prohibit the hip drop tackling technique, which has resulted in some injuries, notably last year to Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens, who suffered a significant ankle injury on a hip drop tackle. Other players have been pretty badly injured on the tackle, but it's also not a thing anybody does really on purpose necessarily.
No, it's just tackling.
The Players Union, the Players Association, has issued a statement opposing that proposal that reads, in part, while the NFLPA remains committed to improvements to our game with health and safety in mind, we cannot support a rule change that causes confusion for us as players, for coaches, for officials, and especially for fans.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. This rule cannot pass because I don't know what you're supposed to do. So many of these over-legislated things lead to other ways where you end up hurting guys. And I know you can't make the game safe. You've made this comparison before. It's the safer cigarette. Like you can do some things, you cannot do everything. This is like how many players have said, I would rather be hitting my head than hitting my knees because the knee is going to end my career now. The head, I'll worry about that later, which is kind of depraved, but that's how a lot of guys have felt. You don't want to suffer a torn ACL. You don't want to have, microfracture surgery on your knee. That's what guys are trying to avoid. But when you can't hit anywhere above the pecs, well, guys are aiming lower intentionally. Players have complained about that. overtime. And again, there's only so much you can do, but this is just tackling. Like, bodies move. Like, you're not static. Yeah. You're not poles that are just hopping down the field. I mean, these are human bodies that are contorting and moving at fast speeds. You can't pass this rule. You just absolutely cannot do it.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. The kickoff thing, the explanation makes it sound way more complicated than it is. It worked for the XFL, and it was awesome, and they should do it.
Yeah.
That's my stance on the kickoff rule.
I got one headline.
Hit me with it.
What if I told you in this economy, you can go to a Major League Baseball game and get all you can eat included in your seats for $52? What would you say?
I would ask for more details. Also, is the team I'm watching any good?
Yeah, that depends on the team.
What if I told you that team was the Miami Marlins? Included through the 7th inning, you can get 4 items a trip: water, cookies, peanuts, popcorn, hot dogs, chili nachos, cheeseburgers, nachos with cheese, and non-alcoholic beverages. If you were in Miami,
right this second.
I mean, look, if you were vacationing in Miami the same time maybe your favorite team was there, I would do it.
That's a lot of food. I do like to veg out at the ballpark.
Yeah, but if you get 4 items, just 4 items, that equals out to your ticket price, most likely.
Yeah, that's probably true.
So, like, it's a steal no matter what, but they're just trying to get butts in the seats in Miami, a tourist town where nobody goes to baseball games.
I would consider doing it. I would consider it. So you can only have 4, or
no, you can go
4 at a time.
Yeah, 4 at a time.
Yeah, I'd probably do it. Yeah. I'd probably do it.
Go every half inning.
I would get 24 hot dogs. I'd go for 6 straight innings and just get hot dogs. Oh my God, that sounds so good. I would do it. I think I would do it.
Just a hot dog and chili nachos every other inning.
That does sound delicious.
And be worth it.
I mean, think about it. If you're just at a game and it's in the summer and you're getting a waters are what, $5 a pop?
At least.
Like,
possibly more. That's true.
Like, if you're just getting water, that still is worth it to me.
That's true. That's a good deal. I would do it. I've changed my mind. I would definitely do it.
Yeah, I think I'm in, even if it is the Marlins.
Yeah.
One more quick headline for you before we got to get to one more break here. Scott Drew has confirmed to Jeff Goodman of the Field of 68 that he is going to remain at Baylor and will not take the Louisville job. That's sad. I was really hoping he would leave. I have seen dueling tweets that say, what is the saddest elevation worship song I can listen to right now? And turn that elevation worship music up after that piece from Matt Norlander yesterday. I'm not surprised by this at all.
No, not even a little.
Not even one bit. I don't know if this should make you more worried if you're a K-State fan that Tang might leave, because, again, I don't think Drew is ever going to leave in the first place anyway. Coming up next, following our 580 Sports Talk headlines, we have one more commercial break, then we'll wrap things up with the final word. wrap up 580 Sports Talk on this Wednesday afternoon. Brendan, Dan, and Spencer here with you. We've got Westwood One's coverage of the first four coming up here in just about 3.5 minutes. We will also be off early tomorrow because we've got coverage of the opening round of the NCAA tournament beginning at 5:30. And we're only on for an hour on Friday this week because we will be off for K-State women's basketball. Dan will be at that game in Manhattan, opening round of the NCAA women's basketball tournament. That's what the rest of the week looks like. But before we're out of here in 2 minutes, Dan, what is your final word?
Go ahead and give you my picks for tonight's games, like Montana State to win over Grambling. And I'll take the Buffs to handle Boise State. I think they're going to have a little bit more size than Boise State will be comfortable with out on the perimeter. So I like the Buffs, and Montana State's the Wildcats, right? I think they're the Wildcats. Bearcats.
Bobcats.
Oh for strike one, strike two. Jar. Anyhow, and I'll take Presbyterian and Columbia in the women's first four tonight. If you're looking for a local angle there, Presbyterian's coach is from Fredonia, Kansas.
And they've got a bunch of Kansas talent on that team.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think they're both injured. But yeah, Ashley Carrillo from Liberal and Aubrey Kirsch from Salina, both on the roster.
Final word for you, Spencer?
I'll agree on the men's picks. Haven't dove into the women's first four. But I would like to air it out to the world that every state in America should have the same regulations when it comes to transferring your vehicle. Because now I have to jump through so many hoops just to be able to transfer my vehicle from another state to Kansas. And it's taken more than the 3 hours I thought I was going to have to put into it. It's got to go call my loan holder, my lien holder. Got to get them to send the title. And then I got to take that title to get my car inspected. Then I got to go do everything else. So it's going to be a long process.
Yeah. Well, have fun with that. I bought my car here.
At least we're off early on Friday.
Yeah, no kidding. Final word for me for today. Kevin McCullar not playing. I'm not surprised. I'm not going to make any judgments. I don't know what the real situation is. It sucks for KU. Hunter Dickinson, hope you're ready to go. That'll do it for 580 Sports Talk. We're back tomorrow at 2. The first four is up next.